We should be live any second now, but I think it's fine if we're just vibing. We're live.
Yeah, we are live. Okay. All right then. Hello there, internet people. I am Straw Hat Lucas, helmsman of the Last Ark, and today we have a very, very, very special guest for the News Q interview. Before I do that introduction, I'd like to thank my co-host vexyz, the Lurking Legend, for being here with me today. How are you doing today, Vex?
Hey, what's good? It's your boy vexyz, the Lurking Legend. Y'all could just call me Vex. Super stoked to be here. Yeah, I missed the last one, so I had to show up for this one for sure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited for this. And then, last but certainly not least, today we are joined by the legend himself, Joyboy Theories. Joyboy, you are a huge part of the community, a huge inspiration to a lot of us here at the Last Ark, and I cannot thank you enough for being here today. How are we doing today?
Bro, I'm just glad that you keep inviting me. You know, I wasn't excommunicated the first time. That's a big plus.
Yeah. That is always a plus. Yes, and want to thank again the Last Ark for letting us stream today. I say letting us like I don't have a say in any of it.
Yes, you're allowed.
But yes.
Yeah,
I was just trying to segue into promoting the Discord. But yes, come to the Last Ark Discord. We have a lot of amazing members in there, including JB himself, who we've been rocking on some TCG with, but we will get to that later. All right, so first things first, we're going to dive into some general One Piece questions for you, my man. Very, very, very general, but it's always a good icebreaker to start out these streams. So let me ask you, who is your favorite character in all of One Piece?
Bro, everybody asks me this question, and I can never give you a definitive answer because it changes almost every month. It's like dependent on what I'm like actively reading in the story. But I'm just a sucker for funny characters. So, the obvious answer is Luffy. Luffy is my favorite character. Anybody who says it's not Luffy, they're lying to you, or they just want to be cool. But if I'm not going to choose Luffy, Zoro's up there. If you want to choose a character that's not a Straw Hat, I mean, Kuma. This Kuma flashback is going so hard. Dude, never in my entire life would I have thought that Kuma would be even close to one of my favorite characters. But right now, it just seems like a legitimate thing to say. I feel that way. So let's go with Kuma.
Yeah. All right. That was solid. Yeah,
like
so do I.
Kuma has jumped straight up into my top 3, like with the recent events. So I totally respect that.
Yes.
Oh, Whitebeard. That's I'm just sitting here thinking Whitebeard's a good one too. There's so many great One Piece characters. This makes it the challenge is hard.
Yeah, I usually preface that question with saying excluding Luffy because you're right. If you say anyone else but Luffy, you're just trying to be different. Like Luffy is everyone's favorite character. Like But no, I agree too with the Kuma stuff because this flashback has just changed. It did a complete 180 for me with how I saw him as a person entirely. Because I was already kind of intrigued by him because he was a very mysterious figure. He showed up, he did that to Zoro, he scattered them at Sabayoti, and then you find out that he protected their ship and all this stuff. And it's like, so what's going on with that guy? I luckily didn't have to wait that long to find out, but I guarantee you probably did, right? When did you catch up to One Piece?
Man, I think I caught up officially in somewhere around 2009 in the middle of Thriller Bark. But my early One Piece journey it's just, it's a different time, right? I wasn't weekly on YouTube. It was kind of different. I think I started years and years before that. It just took a really long time for me to catch up. And then after I caught up, I wasn't, I lurked on the forums a bit. I read some stuff, but I wasn't like fully immersed. So then I also took a break because of college. And then I came back live again somewhere in the Fishman Island in Dressrosa. So, but yeah, I think I caught up in the middle of Thriller Bark, and that was peak, dude.
Yeah.
Thank you. Whitebeard.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
We love the agenda here, especially our shipwright Fritz the Ditz, who couldn't be here with us today. That Thriller Bark is in fact top 3.
Oh goodness. For Fritz, I have to say Thriller Bark is trash. Now his opinion has changed on it entirely, which I love. It's great. But yeah,
Yeah,
that's so interesting. Oh, go ahead, Vex.
Real quick, I just want to shout out to some of the goats in the chat. We love you all. Major shout out to 3Day for making the links rain. That's our
Thank you,
head mod
3Day.
right there. We love you, 3Day. Shout out to Cube. That's our historian. Terrible TJ, what's good? Warto, what's good? I saw Kuso Land. I saw Desness. I saw Debus. Like, we love all of you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. But yeah, yeah. Let's get back to it. I just had to shout out some of the goats.
Oh no, you're okay. And also, chat. If you have any questions that you would like me to ask Joyboy, don't be afraid to drop them in the chat. I am reading chat actively, so yeah, let's go. Yeah. So you caught up in Thriller Bark, which I have to say, wow, like that's insane. Because I literally just got into One Piece last year, and since I got it caught up, I've read it multiple times. I've watched it in both sub and dub, like. But yeah, so you caught up in Thriller Bark. What's your favorite arc, would you say?
And that's another answer that changes on the daily, you know?
Yeah.
I could tell you what my least favorite arcs are. There's a lot of
we're
good
gonna get there too.
Arlong Park, you know, I just made the Drum Island video, right? And I get comments from time to time, even beyond that, of like Hero Look's moment, Drum Island being when they fell in love with the series. But the arc which made me fall in love with the series was Arlong Park, 100%. You know, I have ADD, and so it takes me, like, I'll watch things and I'm not fully committed, especially anime. So it'll just be on, and that's how it was with One Piece, honestly. At the beginning, I know everyone says the beginning of One Piece is goated. You know, it's just like, oh, this is interesting. And it wasn't until Arlong Park that I was like, oh my god, I like this. And it has a lot to do with how hard Nami's flashback hit. And that in-fight with Arlong, like, that was great. So that will always be on my list. And then, you know, Eni's Lobby, man, I'm a sucker for plot twists, betrayals, you know, and the twist of the Gaili Law members, Lucci, and Khalifa and Kaku and such, all being part of CP9, that was great to me. That hit me like a truck as well. And all the way leading up into Eni's Lobby itself and Brabant, that was really, really strong. But you could throw in, I mean, I'm just going to list the whole story, dude. Like, I like it all, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, even Thriller Bark, you know, a lot of people shit on Thriller Bark, and I'm not the biggest fan of Moria, but that is the most hilarious arc in the story. And that tops for me Foxy, which I also like, which was also hilarious. And so, yeah, you know, but like into the recent story, you know, Whole Cake Island, dude, when it was going live, there was a lot of people that hated that, but that arc is goated in my opinion, and that's going to be its lasting legacy as well. That was great, along with Zoe, you know. So I'm just going to stop now, but yeah, we could go on. I like it all.
Yeah, no, understandable, my man. Yeah, it is definitely like a fluctuating thing. Once you've experienced the full story, because like once, and I think I might have some bias because I got caught up in Wano. But Egghead, experiencing it week to week like this, definitely has become like my favorite arc. It's like it was almost there, and then with all the Kuma stuff lately, it really just overtook it. Like it's been so intense, and Oda has been in his bag ever since his eye surgery and everything. And I know when he released that unfinished chapter, a lot of people were worried about his health and stuff. But if I'm being honest, even his sketches, man, just impact the story so much. Like the way you can see how he's positioning the characters and everything. But yes, you mentioned your Drum Island video, which I watched, my man, and ooh, some spicy stuff there. I am a huge fan of failed Joy Boys. Were there any of those that you did not mention in that video?
Yeah, Dragon. I purposely did not mention Dragon as a possible Joy Boy candidate. Somebody who's actively in the story, maybe trying to be like Joy Boy in a similar but different way than Kuma. Maybe he's not actually trying to, but you know, the whole idea of the revolution toppling the government. Dragon, you know, I believe in the parallels, pre and post time skip, in that like basically like history is repeating. So the events that are taking place in the story right now are related to and similar to events that actually took place during the Void Century. So Dragon actually has a character from the Void Century that's going to be similar to him, in my opinion. That could very well be Joy Boy. Certainly I would look at Joy Boy as, you know, during the Void Century, possibly before it as well, as the guy who turned the system upside down, which Dragon is actively trying to do. But it's a difficult conversation to have, right? Because it's like, how similar do they need to be in order to be a Joy Boy candidate? Like, are we just taking one personality trait, or many of them? How many? You know, it's tough. There's a lot of characters that
Oh yeah.
that you could draw some parallel or similarity to. Clover is another one that potentially comes to mind. I try to simplify it as much as possible, you know, like stick with what I know works, you know, the characters that I feel really strongly about, that I have a lot to say about, and that's plenty. Is kind of how I approach that.
What about you, Vex? Do you have any like, I don't want to say failed Joy Boys, but like Joy Boy candidates that you can think of?
I like thinking about, like, they've mentioned that specifically, like, the fruit, you know, hasn't been awakened in the past 800 years, but that doesn't mean that it hasn't had previous users. And so I like to think that there is like a bit of a checkered past of, like, you know, like these people across 800 years, just like more than we could possibly count, as far as like people who didn't quite get, and it's like a culminating like build up to get to the point where we get to Luffy actually awakening it. So like I think there's a bunch, but I don't think we're gonna see many of them like in the present era. But you guys have kind of covered most of the ones. So yeah, that's. But I love thinking of like that scene in like Gurren Lagann, where you get to see like all of the past failed attempts. Like there's just like an entire like graveyard site of like all of the iterations that had failed, and then this is like the one culminating like event that really like capstones that all off, you know.
Yeah, it's like building momentum, you know. I kind of think of like after the Void Century, the slate is wiped clean, right? Nobody knows of what happened during the Void Century, and we get sort of a historical stepwise process of people who potentially have the ability to be Joy Boy, acquire the pieces to perform that role, you know. So like if you look at Noland compared to Roger to me is just a very clear step up to what Noland was. Noland was a master of the sea, right? Obviously a really strong person, really strong will, you know, and has some of those characteristics, but they're not quite, it's not at that Luffy level yet. And obviously some of that is like dependent on Nolan's own personality, like he just might not have been that guy. But, you know, over the course of many years, I just see the inherited will as kind of like stacking upon itself in a way, like the accumulated knowledge of generations leading to what the present events of the story in Luffy. Like it's like the universe is trying to perfect its champion.
Yeah, I love that. It's like refining it throughout the ages and things like that. And it's like certain qualities have been, you know, like instilled throughout like just generational inherited will. And this has all been building up to like our beloved MC, you know, like, and that's, and it's not like, I don't know, I feel like it's really tastefully done, and it's not just like kind of like the whole fated, you know, destiny situation. It was born different from the whole time. It's like maybe he inherited this will. He was born a bit different, but it's also a culmination of just like so much else throughout the ages.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's an interesting conversation by itself, like free will versus destiny. Freedom is a big concept of the story, yet Luffy is the chosen one. And how do you reconcile those things? And Oda obviously is going to. And in my opinion, it has a lot to do with the will of the people, you know? Like the things that are actively occurring in the world lead to people having dreams, and these dreams have an actual effect on the desires that people have, which manifest in this world literally. So there's something there. You can play with that in order to create something cool.
I like that a lot. And yeah, that actually kind of segues perfectly into a super chat we had from a friend of the channel here, Terrible TJ, aka The Little Garden, over on TikTok. He asked specifically, what is your favorite theme in One Piece? And so we're talking about dreams, and we're talking about destiny and fate and things like that. But what would you say is your absolute favorite theme in One Piece?
Damn, that's another really hard question to answer. You know, what's really powerful to me, and this relates to some of the videos I've made on the topic of Buddhism, but smiling before you die is such a powerful concept to me, you know, that even if you fail to accomplish what you want in your life, that will carry on, and at some point you will be satisfied, is, you know, that hits me every time. Off the top of my noggin, that's what comes up. But
That's
you could,
a great
I
answer.
mean,
That's phenomenal.
That's an amazing
Yeah.
answer. That gave me chills. I ain't even gonna lie. That's such a good theme too. Oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
had a question to follow up with the Joy Boy stuff, but ooh.
Yeah, I'm
were
sorry.
you
I'm
gonna
just
say
trying to
next?
make sure with the super chats I get them out pretty quickly, and that was a perfect segue. I couldn't help it.
No,
With the
yeah, I was
rest of
about to segue into it. Yeah.
Yeah. With the rest of the
My bad.
chats, any questions that you guys have, make sure you stick around. And once we're done with like all of the questions Lucas has prepared, I'm gonna make sure I've taken note of everything that you guys have put in the chat, and we'll make sure we ask those later. So stick around till the end, and we'll make sure we get all of those asked for our wonderful guest
Yes.
here.
Yes. But yes, with the Joy Boy stuff and like the failed Joy Boys things, I really like that you brought up Kaido, because I think that, you know, even Doflamingo had the potential to be a failed Joy Boy, and there's even these like potential candidates to the whole thing. And Vex, I really liked how you said about it's almost like an Avatar thing. It's redefining itself each generation and becoming stronger. Like it's brilliant. But yes, speaking of thematic elements and things of that nature, Joy Boy, you have written some books, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Also,
sir.
as a side note, not to sidetrack this, but the Kaido mention, I was threatened by one of my comments because I mentioned in some chapter reviews that I was going to talk about near Joy Boys, and in my chapter reviews I talk about a lot of things that I end up making full videos on. And it's like, bro, if you don't mention Kaido, I'm going to unsubscribe. So I was like, okay.
Wild.
As well. But you hear that? Man of the people right there. Man of the people.
Yeah, the booms.
The booms, yes. So you have 3 volumes out. How many more do you think you're planning with that?
Yeah, plans are great. So you know, we'll see if it actually like. So what's most likely going to happen, right? Is the story's planned out to be 9 total volumes, or essentially like 3. A trilogy of fantasy books, because the 3, if you read the booms, if you read all 3 of the first volumes, it makes for what is like your traditional large epic fantasy experience, you know. So I want to do 3 of those equals 9. If it is not 9, it would be more than 9 most likely, just because, you know, I'm a little bit of a gardener as far as writing is concerned. Like, I know where the story goes. I know what the themes are. I know many of the big moments. I know how everything comes together. But a lot of what makes for a good story is how it connects, you know? How you fill in the space between matters. So a lot of that is hard to predict. So sometimes it can balloon the story. So yeah, but it's probably 9. And if it's not 9, I'm not going to kill myself to try to make it 9. You know, at the end of the day,
This is this is an Oda situation, and he said like 5 more years, and then kept it going for like 12.
bro. If that happens, I would not be surprised. It's just like, and it's also part of the fun of writing it as well. I'm actually writing it, and it's exciting, you know, to be surprised. I can surprise myself because there's ideas that I have today that I didn't have 2 years ago, right? That are cool. I want to write them. This works with my story. You know, that's fun. So I'm not going to shy away from that if that occurs to me. You know, why would I do that?
Yeah.
I also did want to shout out, we had a membership milestone chat from the Lonely Mage, Reese Lucas themselves. Wonderful creator who started streaming just a ton, and I love their streams, and I try to pop in every time I can. They've been a member for 7 months, and they said that they caught up in Whole Cake whenever we were talking about that. I just wanted to make sure I didn't forget about that. But yeah, you were showing some mad love for Whole Cake as well. So yeah, I didn't want to let that slip through the cracks, you know?
Yeah, Whole Cake was peak, dude. Like, just to go off for a second, I know this isn't necessarily on topic, but
Oh no, you're good.
yeah, like the beginning of Whole Cake, the setup for it, the mystery of the islands itself, we went into there thinking that it was possible that Big Mom could be an outright ally because of Lola, which turned out to be her actual daughter. I think at the very beginning of that arc, we saw Chiffon, right? And at that point in time, I was like absolutely sure that the Vira card that Nami had belonged to Big Mom. So we get to the islands, not entirely certain. Obviously, we have the impression of Big Mom from Fishman Island and from Zoe, but it's like, well, maybe it'll change. And that was really exciting. We get to the island itself, and then suddenly everything is weird. Like the seducing woods, you know, like I had so much fun analyzing that and trying to figure out what the heck was going on. What are the powers involved here? Big Mom's family is also just incredibly cool, just with what Oda could do with them. All the way leading up to, and the whole point was the Sanji retrieval, right? And it's like peak in the same way that Usopp leaving the crew is peak. It's obviously different than that, but I mean, when we got to those chapters, man, that was hype as hell. And then we had the actual like assassination attempt, right? Which had me on the edge of my seat. So what's going to happen here? Like, Portrait of Mother Carmel, Big Mom can't be damaged. What the hell's going on here? Big Mom's flashback was great. And everything up to that was just, I don't think it could have been any better. But people were so convinced that the arc would end, like in, I think it was like chapter 876 or 5 or something like that. As soon as we left the castle, people thought that the arc would end, and it didn't. And I just, man, like live, man, I think Whole Cake got such a bad rep because of that. And I understand that there's like some elements of it that, after that point in time, it did feel kind of dragged out, like Big Mom running around, cakey, it gets tired. I get it. Sanji making a cake, like that was beautiful thematic writing. Obviously, Oda was alluding to Sanji's original arc in Barate feeding his enemies and such. That was the point of that. And I think some people just subjectively didn't like it, but it is what it is. You felt the way that you felt. But those instances were so small. Even like the Katakuri fight in the Mirror World, it was kind of slow paced. But the point of it was as a training arc for Luffy. Katakuri did not want to kill Luffy. Katakuri wanted to break Luffy's spirit, which is why the battle lasted so long, in my opinion. It also gave Luffy the opportunity to grow, which he did. So, and leading up to the end, man, like those moments were so small. And Whole Cake Island, I think, is totally goated. Totally. And I will go to my grave with that.
Yeah, to speak on just the cake scene that you were talking about when Sanji like was going in with everybody, that was one of my favorite things. As like I cook myself. I've been working in restaurants for like over a decade and stuff like that. Before getting into like content creation, and the actual recipes and like ingredients that he used, and he's like, we can use this to complement, and I promise you, like it's actually like Oda went deep to like, this isn't just like some random like it's actually like really there, like the substance is crazy, like. And he did that with a lot of the character. We didn't get a whole showing from all of her children, but the whole like cast that we had in Whole Cake was huge, and we got to see so much from some of the supernovas and even like Gastino and stuff like that. It's just it was so crazy. I really did love Whole Cake. I need to rewatch through it though, because I was in like full binge mode whenever I was going through Whole Cake, and I wasn't week to week, so I like blew through it in like so little time that I feel like my retention kind of suffered. I really need to watch through it again. Soon. But I loved it. I really did.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Lucas.
No. No. You're good. You're good, brother. You guys are cooking. But no, I would definitely go back and rewatch Whole Cake, because I did the same thing on my first read through. Because once I hit Dressrosa, I was like, I'm not watching anime anymore. I'm just going to read this, and sped through the rest. So I had to go back and reread Whole Cake after I got caught up. Wano again, like. So I would definitely go back. I think my favorite moment in all of Whole Cake, though, is, JB, you reminded me of it, is the battle in the Mirror World. Not the fight itself, but the conversation that happens between the two of them. And like when Katakuri falls on his back, he's like, "You're looking pretty far into the future" and stuff. It's just such an iconic moment. Plus, Big Mom is my favorite Yonko. Like, I love Big Mom. The channel knows I love Big Mom. Like, mama, like straight up, my man. I do. I am thirsty for some Big Mom. It doesn't matter if it's young Lin Lin or old Lin Lin. Like it. Like Rocks Pirates or
who am I?
Yeah,
really?
Like just saying.
From yourself here.
Nope. Everyone has to sit through this. No, I'm joking.
It's a rite of passage. Yeah.
It's a rite of passage.
Actually, my favorite moment of Whole Cake was similar to yours, but different. Was when Katakuri stabbed himself. Like, impression that I'm as I read One Piece, like I'm emotionally devastated by everything that occurs, but it's not really true. There's highlight points, and post time skip when Katakuri turned around and stabbed himself and sort of revealed who he was. the honor of that battle, dude, that crushed me. That was great. That was definitely my favorite moment. Katakuri himself is good as well.
Yes. Yes, love Katakuri. Yeah. I had one more question for you about the booms, actually. And this is, you've talked to me and Vex pretty extensively about it. But for the audience, can you give us just a brief summary of the plot?
Dude, man, you're gonna put me on the spot like that. I struggle trying to summarize.
I'm so sorry.
It's kind of like it's a lot. It's like One Piece in a way. Although you can easily define One Piece, but there's a lot that goes on with the story that I would point to as like, this is why you should read it, and this is what it tries to do. Especially the more that you know about it, and since I wrote it, right, it makes it tough for me to try to like define it, you know. But it's basically a murder mystery. The first volume is basically a murder mystery, where you try to discover what happened. You follow characters who are very flawed. The characters in the booms matter a lot. I don't think that a story is good unless you have great characters that you're actively invested in, and have arcs of their own. So it's, you know, as far as like narrative plot, the murder mystery is loosely what sort of strings everything together, but the characters is really what drives the story. And so you follow characters as they both reveal and discover themselves, and try to essentially become more idealized versions of themselves, both intentionally and not intentionally. That's probably like a more erudite or, you know, like scholarly look at it. It's a funny story as well. It's absurd and silly, and I wrote it intentionally that way. It's got some appeals of One Piece in that way, where you try to mix the lightheartedness with the seriousness, but it falls much more in line with One Piece in its more serious tone, which creates a sort of berserk-like effect where I would say the main character of the first 3 volumes is a struggler like Guts. I was heavily inspired by that. And he tries so hard to continue forward. But yeah, I mean, that's a terrible one-liner for a book cover. You could just read what I wrote, right? That's, you know, that was my best attempt.
No, that was perfect, brother. That was perfect. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that, man. I'm sorry for that. But yeah,
read it.
Yeah, go read it.
Link in the description. Link in the
description. You can find all 3 volumes on Amazon as well, I believe. So yeah. Yes, sir.
Audiobooks and physical books, you can get both. The audiobooks are relatively inexpensive. A lot of people, I say audiobooks, I meant ebooks. Audiobooks, people ask me about that all the time. They're not available currently because I don't want to read it myself. I don't do voices for characters that well. Like, you have a great voice, JB, yeah, but I can't actually like create different characters' voice well. So
no, I'm kidding.
Yeah, so like actually finding a great reader is difficult. So that's not a thing yet, but eventually it will be.
Yeah. So go ahead, Vex. No, you.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to shout because we were talking about how it ties to One Piece and some other like stories as well. I wanted to shout out to 3-Day Trip, our navigator. We love 3-Day. She had posed some great question earlier, specifically pertaining to that. So I thought it would be a good time to slide it in. And it was, what about One Piece inspires you, and how do you relate to it? And so that can be, you know, just in your everyday life, or even pertaining to the boom specifically. But it's a great question that 3-Day asked, and I wanted to make sure this was just like the perfect time. So.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I mean, the easiest answer here is laugh more, right? Like, that's what One Piece teaches you to do. You know, enjoy life, and don't let your fears bring you down. Pursue what you want, and I try to keep that in mind when it occurs to me. For the actual booms, you know, analyzing One Piece for so long, I, in a way, try to put myself in Oda's mind as I'm making these. Like, is this something Oda would do? Or this is what Oda is doing. I'm analyzing it and learning from it. So a lot of what a lot of my analysis of One Piece actually applies to the story of the booms. So when I make theories about parallels and foreshadowing or putting pieces together, right, I've learned. And so I utilize that in my writings. Oda was essentially my teacher because I didn't go to school for it, you know. So, and you can read it that way, and that's actually one of the things I was, you know, most proud of after finishing it, was that the book can actually be read two ways simultaneously. There's the way that you would read it as you're just reading it for the first time, the story as it flows naturally, and then once you reach the end, or even some parts in the middle, you can go back and the same scenes with the same dialogue can be interpreted differently to reveal different information, things that were going on. Which, yeah, I was really proud that I did that. And that's something that I learned from Oda.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, that's a great
That's
answer.
amazing.
Like, as somebody who also, like, it's not like published or anything like that, but I do like One Piece D&D, and I try to do like story arcs of my own, create my own islands, create my own characters, and like they go through their own like progressions. It's a lot harder with D&D, I think, because it's like I don't get to do all of the writing. A lot of the world is also created by the decisions that each of my individual players make, and as a collective crew and things like that. But the things that I try to like set up, I completely resonate with what you said. Like, Oda is my teacher because I didn't go to school for it and anything like that. But it's so crazy because every single time somebody like kind of like compliments me on like a good like moment or this or that or like a cool island or something, I'm just like, yo, just like it's Oda. It's like honestly. I just felt like I was channeling that, you know, and yeah, that really resonated with me when you said that.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, well, I got my start on YouTube officially. I did theories before this, but like YouTube, it was obviously a big moment for me. Became a huge part of my life, and that began in Whole Cake Island, at the very beginning of Whole Cake Island. And the theory, Lucas, you know this because you checked out the beginning of my channel this morning.
Yes, I did.
This all started with Big Mom. And I had a thought about Big Mom. I was like trying to make sense of Big Mom Lola having given Nami Big Mom's fever card and telling her that her mom would help them if they needed it, right? But it conflicted with the impression that we had of Big Mom from Fishman Island and from Zoe. So it was like these two things don't make sense, right? And so this ended up being wrong, right? But it was still a fascinating journey at the time. A lot of people resonated with these theories of like reading through Whole Cake Island in two ways simultaneously. One, which the actual events of the story with Big Mom as the antagonist, and two, as like how all of these things make sense to create a more sympathetic Big Mom that's understandable. And some elements of this were actually true, you know, but some of my conclusions weren't, like, for instance, Big Mom becoming an ally, which never became a thing. But yeah, you know, but doing it, like doing theories like that and reading the story in two ways, that, I mean, basically changed the way that I look at telling stories. Totally.
Yeah. As a writer, because I have a thing that I keep very close to my chest. I've been developing a series since I was like 16, 17. And I've written, it's supposed to be a comic series, and I've written 6 issues of it so far. But I wrote issue 5 and 6 after I'd read all of One Piece. And I started implementing little things here and there that will affect the plot dramatically if you've read the entire story. Like, so I get it, man, entirely. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing when you can read writing that also helps you improve almost. No, that is the right word. Improve just by how good that writing is, and that is a testament to Oda's skill as a writer, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Well,
now,
like for instance, like oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go, brother.
You know, it's like, it's just so cool to me that it's about building up a twist, right? There's an art to it, and it's not science, but you want to have the pieces in place so that a change in direction of the story that's interesting makes sense. But at the same time, you want to layer it in a way in which it's not totally obvious. Well, I mean, sometimes it can be obvious, right? Sometimes, like, the reader knowing that a twist is coming is itself intriguing, like that's now what you're looking forward to, so that's a hook in a way. But you know, doing it where it's you don't know that it's happening, it was fun to learn that, and I really did not until I began really digging in the One Piece community. But go ahead.
No, you're good. I was gonna steer it back towards One Piece, especially with like current things. You had mentioned Dragon earlier. How did you feel reading 1101 and with his lines about like Luffy and everything?
Oh, bro.
Bro, I was asked this on my stream. The One Piece community is out of pocket. It has only gotten worse over time. I can remember the glory days. I even think about it like that. I feel old now, you know, like back in my day, the One Piece community wasn't so wild. But yeah, I mean, like, you know. I hate to make everything so deep. I feel like every conversation I have ends up becoming like this. But I'm always thinking, you know, but it's just like the impact of social media, the social media landscape on just discourse in general, right? It's like on Twitter, for instance, you're encouraged to have the hottest take possible in order to garner attention. Like, it's just how that works. If you ride the middle, right, people don't follow you. They're looking for, you know, the extremes on either direction. And I think that contributes to what is perceived as like kind of like cool, or what people say online about the series. Sometimes just having a take, you know, an extreme take is just, you know, I don't think people think too much about it, but I certainly, with Dragon, dude, man, he's not Luffy, right? And I understand Luffy would do things differently, okay? If Luffy was the leader of the Revolutionary Army and Kuma needed help, Luffy would disregard all of his plans. In fact, he would never have plans in the first place, and he would go and help his friend. And I agree with that, right? Luffy is my favorite character for a reason. But I'm not going to condemn Dragon because he's thinking bigger, you know? Luffy is obviously right. Dragon is flawed, but I don't hate him for it, and I wouldn't hold that against him. He is trying to say more than just one person, and trying to do it in the way that makes sense to him. And that, you can't fault him for that. His intentions are good, with Ginny as well. So when I hear, like, you know, people are just talking. That's how I feel.
Yeah, and with the whole Dragon thing as well, man, people are like, why didn't he go save Ginny? Why didn't he go save Ginny? Why didn't he go save Ginny? But in all honesty, he learned from not saving her. Because of the state she was in when she escaped from Marie-Joie, he learned. And when Kuma was in Marie-Joie, he set a plan and sent Sabo and them to go get Kuma. Like, so there's a lot, I don't know. I've never thought Dragon was a bad person. And I have this really bad take where I'm like, he's not a bad dad because he gave Luffy exactly what Luffy wanted, which was freedom. Like, even
he made sure Luffy was free of him.
Exactly.
I mean, so he is an absentee father, but he is not a bad person. I will agree.
I like the fact that he's at least thoughtful about it. You know, this isn't an easy decision for him. He truly feels like he's doing what's best in a genuine way, and that matters. That was a great point as well about going and saving Kuma. I think, you know, to play devil's advocate a little bit, I think that the state of the Revolutionary Army versus the world government had itself changed, and had Kuma been in Marie-Joie 10 years ago, even after Ginny, like a few years after, I don't think Dragon would have actually done it. I think it just coincided well with the Revolutionary Army now being ready and positioned to declare war, which kind of takes a little bit from your point, even though I still think it's a great one. But yeah, I mean, none of that really matters to me. And
then, yeah, like in Vex, I think you were about to bring up in 1101, where he says, oh my goodness, what is it he says about Luffy? Like, you know, a kid is the ultimate weakness for anyone, or whatever he says.
Yeah, that was like one of my favorite, like, like there's been so many good like panels in general, but if I'm just talking about like a speech bubble, that was one of my favorite speech bubbles. It was exactly what I feel like I needed, with like the like you said, the One Piece community just kind of being a little bit saturated with these takes that, you know, Dragon this, Dragon that, yada yada, why didn't he, and you know, like that solidified the hope that I've had this whole time. It cemented it that this, whatever, when we finally do get the Dragon flashback, and I know 3-Day agrees with me on this because we were talking about it with the Hime stream that we had not too long ago, but I really, really think that when we finally get like the dragon flashback, it will be something Kuma level, you know, like that. Like Oda is just redefining what a 10 is, and I think that, you know, that this is, I hope this is something that we can continue to expect, this level of just amazing just quality in a flashbacks.
I think
Absolutely.
I think he definitely will be going ham on some of these flashbacks. There's a reason he hasn't shown us them for so long. I mean, the dude's been cooking something up behind the scenes. And I just have to shout out one second, brother. I have to shout out Will of Dreams, because when we were talking about dragging in his parenting style, he said free range parenting and parents without borders, and I thought that was the funniest thing I've read in the entire chat this time.
Oh my goodness.
But yes, go ahead, JB. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I actually got distracted. I forgot what I was going to say, but you know, it's like think about it like this. This puts it into perspective. What if you lived in a country with Hitler, okay, and your dad was a freedom fighter against Hitler? You would then understand, right, why the dad would have to be separated from the child for a number of reasons. For the child's own protection, because the dad is doing something that is important. You know, it's just, I feel like people don't think about this with perspective to the actual circumstances going on here. You know, the world government, as Dragon sees it, most likely related to the things that have happened in his life, which are going to hit us like a truck, has ultimately made a great sacrifice. And that's what the chapter made clear, right? It was a sacrifice, and that's all I needed. And I already knew it anyway, so I almost didn't need it, but, you know, it confirms what I needed.
Yeah. So with Egghead recently too, this is last flashback we had in Egghead with Sabo and that. What did you think of like the reveal of like the gorosei and the hint at their powers?
Bro, that was so hype. You know, speaking of things that inspire me in writing, you know, that's just, there's a skill to being able to introduce new things which change the way that you think about the story. Yet when they happen, it's like, oh wow, this makes sense with the world. You know, it doesn't feel like it's just ass-pulled from nowhere. The pinnacle, or, you know, pentagram, whatever, with Saturn's ability just got my mind going, dude. I think we talked about this during the last stream as well.
Yes.
But it adds this like occult type magic to the world of One Piece that I never knew that I wanted, and is now here. I definitely want it because it has me thinking about it. Yeah, and just the gorosei in general, as potentially creatures, you know, or mythological beings themselves, is incredibly hype. But, you know, I gotta kind of temper it to some extent as well, just because I know we're in the realm of theories, right? And so you can be led astray easily. I have been there before. So, you know, keep your expectations level, you know, and Oda will ultimately cook what he cooks. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, we did talk about it in the last stream, because I agree with you too. I think they're definitely some kind of like devil or mythical creature or something like that. But like you said, it is just theories. Goodness, I ain't gonna lie, I just derailed myself.
Bro, welcome to my world. I feel so bad, dude. Like,
no.
My thoughts escape me. I feel like I'm thinking one thing and then I just like I zone out while talking, and then it's like, wait, what was I saying?
Yeah. No, yeah, that's exactly what happened, because I'm reading at the same time, and someone said something in the chat. I'm not going to repeat it on stream, and I was like, wait, what's going on?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah, chat is, we love you, chat. Y'all are wild.
We love you, chat. Y'all are wild right now. vexyz, speaking of chat, I think it would be a great time to start asking some of the spicy questions. Not that we're wrapping up anytime soon, but just some of the more questions from the chat.
We were talking about the community, and a question got posed very early into the stream, and I was wanting to kind of get into it once we kind of talked a little bit more about things. And yeah, so like a question was asked, who are some of your favorite One Piece like YouTubers, that, you know, if you would like to, you know, spit just a few, we can talk. I know that like you because you go way further back in the community than I do, So for someone who's really like way newer into the One Piece YouTube side of things, I would love to hear this also. But it was a great question post in the chat. I think it was by Warto.
Yeah, I got to be careful a little bit. I have a problem of being too honest. So every successful YouTuber is successful for a reason, and I can appreciate those things. It's not that I always like those things, but I can appreciate them. Everyone has a particular talent, but I will voice that. So let's try not to do that. But as far as like YouTubers that I would actually watch or have watched and enjoy, dude, King of Lightning back in the day, bro, he is so funny. I wish that I could carry his energy, and while maintaining multiple stories at the same time, dude. Like I watched Cole quite a bit before I actually got onto YouTube. As far as like theorists are concerned, like true theorists, sorry, Cole, it's tough, because I have such an opinion that I find myself like often disagreeing with a lot of people out there that do theories. So it's those that I agree with, and on the vast majority of cases, or make me think about things in different ways than I already am, that I like the most. Or it could just be presentation as well. Dude, like Morge and I disagree a lot, but Morge has an incredible talent of analyzing, not only analyzing, but doing so in a very succinct way that I cannot manage. Like I watch a Morge video and there's 100% chance that I'm going to think about something slightly differently. So mad respect to Morge. I also disagree with him a lot as well. This should be noted. Hidden Island is great, dude. Watching Hidden Island's videos, it's like I always agree with what he says. The only thing that's any different is like how we approach the subject, or like our evidences and stuff. But like, I don't watch a bunch of videos from a bunch of creators, so this is just a small sample size, especially the new ones. Dax Sake, the Lafro Tail video, just was one of the best theories ever made, period. I was recommended that on my channel about the time that it came out, when Dak only had a few thousand subscribers. I watched that and that shit blew my mind. And I've only watched one other video from Dak, which was about Nolan, and that was also just incredible. So I have a huge amount of respect for Dak Sake. Parvision I don't think any of the shit that Parvision says is true. But how he comes to his conclusions is just like my brain cannot fathom. Like how he makes it make sense that these things that can't possibly be connected are in fact connected, and it's a talent. Like I've told him that in person as well. Like, bro, you have like there's something that you're different. That's how I feel. Let's see. I'm trying to like think. If I'm looking for like hype reactions, dude, I'm tuning into Roger's Base. Definitely. Throw out some other YouTubers. I'll tell you what I think. Like who's on your mind that you think that I've seen?
To speak on, like, because we're big friends of Dak here. We've had him on multiple times.
Yes.
We've had Par on as well and stuff like that. And yeah, I think that the way that like Dak articulates things, it's exactly how I kind of wanted to be whenever I first got into the community. And Dak and Par, and I've told them this, were reasons why I thought it was possible for me to enter into the creator space on YouTube and stuff like that. It was specifically a stream with Par and King Recon months back, this was like I think mid-March or something like that, which made me really decide to like get into it. And so yeah, Par, I don't agree with a lot of his theories, but I love that he has the wherewithal to put this out there, and his video composition and like the way that he portrays these, it is so great. It's like a thesis statement every single time. So I got mad love for those two. And yeah, I have to shout out King Recon as well, because he was there for like when I literally was like watching that stream. I decided like, okay, I'm getting into it. I would be remiss to not mention you as well, and Marshall D Preach and Tekking, because y'all were literally the three people who were the first creators that I saw upon getting caught up to One Piece, because I couldn't watch like theories like fully until I was caught up. When I was in Whole Cake, I had to like watch like 3-year-old theory videos, because this would be like stuff that was pre-Wano, so I didn't spoil myself on anything and stuff like that. And so like I started getting into like older theory videos and things like that before I was actually caught up. But like as soon as I got caught up, y'all were like kind of the big three for me. So mad props to Teching, to Preach, who's also a friend of the channel, and now the
Mhm.
fact that we've had you on before, and now this is amazing. And then, looking forward to this weekend having you on for the TCG tournament as well. So that's gonna be hype. But I'm like, yeah, that's like you've mentioned a lot of the goats. I do have to say.
There's more, dude. I forget way more than I remember. But I want to shout out King Recon, dude, because watching King Recon is uplifting. Just straight up, I feel better when I tune into streams. I don't always do it, but when I do, it's just vibe is irreplaceable.
Yeah, he is a hype
and
beast.
he's a treasure.
Like, it's insane. I agree with what you said about Cole as well. It's the vibes are straight there. Like with those two, I think, and Roger Space, just some of the hype. Like it's like lightning in a bottle. I can't describe how watching them makes me feel. I get so pumped about everything.
Well, what is a really great quality in YouTubers, in my opinion, that is maybe like falling off a little bit, and that's sad, is people genuinely being themselves and their content genuinely reflecting them. That's, I've never been a teching guy, just straight up. I don't dislike teching or anything like that, but it's just his content was never for me. But that guy is so genuinely himself, and how he expresses the story, and the passion, and how he's able to string along these reviews for hours and throw in his little side jokes and stuff like that is just great. I appreciate that, absolutely. Another person that just occurred to me as well is Library of Ohara. I have some disagreements with Library of Ohara, but that dude's memory is unreal.
Yeah,
I did a stream with Hidden Island, and it was a trivia. And the first thing that I asked him is O'Hara going to be there? Because if so, I might want to duck it, straight up.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, Artor, when I first got into the One Piece side, because I actually waited until I was caught up to start looking at theories or anything like that. When I first got into it, though, there was like 4 creators that like I got into immediately, and it was you, Dak, Teach, and Artor. Artor, he would just go on these long I mean, there was one of his videos, I think it's the Ultimate One Piece Theory, that's like 5.5 hours. I had to break that up into like 3 watchings because like it was so long, but it was so good that it doesn't feel like 5 hours when you're like listening to it or watching it. But yeah, it's definitely, especially with like what you said about teching, it's definitely a lost art on YouTube and in content creation in general, in my opinion. Being candid with your audience, being authentic, just being yourself. When it seems like all of the ones that have these like loving communities, that's what they do. You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm rambling again.
Yeah. I mean, it's tough, dude. Especially, I think the bigger that you get, or if you're going on YouTube with the idea of success, you want to present yourself in a way that you think the audience actually wants, which might be different to how you actually are. Like, look, real talk, not everybody is going to, genuinely themselves is going to appeal to everybody. Yes, it's not going to work. It's like Cody, right? Hung out a ton with him in the streams. He has an amazing personality. I like being around him, and that's that kind of energy. I like that. It's not polished. It's not manufactured for mass appeal. Yeah. I don't know. I'm rambling as well.
No, you're good. Shout out to SSJ8 Cody, the special grade sorcerer of the last arc. Cody is the goatee.
He literally just joined in the chat. He just got off of work. I bet you just made his day.
You did.
I completely agree. I really respect creators who can just be themselves and be I don't know. And I've told Cody this in our chat, we've chatted so much. That's he's like a brother to me at this point. But that kind of unfiltered passion, and like when you put that passion into what you do and the content that you create, it really just makes that just more palatable for me. I love people who are passionate about what they do and seeing that in any form, but especially when it relates to me, because I'm also passionate about One Piece and like love this whole community and creator space and things like that. So it's really great to see. I love that you just shouted out my guy, because that just made my day, and I know it made his.
Yeah.
As well.
Bruh.
And Cody is
Welcome to my
amazing.
life. I'm over here just like I take it all in, you know. I like the One Piece community, you know. I just kind of like observe it, almost like I'm Saturn, and like everybody's really interesting. I like how things work, you know. What makes things work? What, like, how does this fit? And yeah, it's just a weird thing that I do. And like Brago, for instance, we didn't mention Brago, dude. I have so much respect for Brago as well. I don't actually watch his content because I'm not a big power scaler, but yeah, interacting with that guy for years and years when he was doing streams before he actually had a channel, awesome person.
Yeah, that's another person I like all of the folks who have been creating for longer than like 4 years, I would say, because it took me a while to get into like One Piece and get all the way caught up and stuff like that. And like I said, I was watching through like older content whenever I wasn't quite caught up. So like Brago, King of Lightning, you, Arthur, like all of the you know, the individuals who have just been around for a minute, I was definitely digesting all of that. Brago brings a whole different vibe to like his streams and stuff like that. I wanted to also real quick shout out to Young Usopp donating $1.99 with the super chat, saying like the stream. We've also got John Sherrod, our OPU fam
JJ!
in the house. What's good, JJ? And we also have €2 by Tainted Marth, a goat who just got back from Japan. Hope you had a wonderful trip and safe travels. We're loving to see that you're back. Can't wait to watch your reaction to the last 3 chapters. But he said, yeah, he's right. You better like the stream. So had to hit the chat with the love. You guys are so amazing.
We're about to hit him with some more love, Vex. Let's get another question from the chat. I won't lie, we burned through most of my questions real quick, and the rest of them are pertaining to the TCG. So, like,
oh no, you're good. I've actually been keeping a close ear to the ground with the chat this whole time, and most of their questions have been answered. So I could pull something out of my own bag.
Yes, sir.
Like, yeah, like I wanted to, talk to JB specifically about, like, I've also got some stuff pertaining to the TCG, which we'll get into here in a bit. But we were talking about when you got caught up and things like that, and your beginning of getting into like One Piece content and things like that. But I didn't actually know that you got caught up in Thriller Bark, and that changes things drastically for me. So I have to ask, what is your favorite villain laugh in Thriller Bark? And would you be willing to do that laugh on stream right now?
No, maybe. I don't know. We'll see how I feel in a couple seconds.
If he doesn't, I can do all of the laughs from Thriller Bark. Just throwing it out there.
Bro, this is not going well. Bro, all the One Piece laughs are goated, dude. I was watching a video with my girlfriend recently about One Piece laughs. If you knew who the character was based on the laugh, and that was great. Whoever made that video, shout out to you, because that was fun. Yeah, I mean, I think Moria's laugh, I like it. I don't like Moria's design. Something about it. Yeah, exactly.
Oh my god. Lucas has a new mic now, so it's like it doesn't actually peak when he does this stuff. It's crazy.
I held the microphone away from me as well.
Oh, you got that technique.
Nah, but I will say this, Corona's laugh, not for me. Absolutely not. Like, dude, if I'm going on a date and suddenly she's like, I'm like, no.
So in the dub, it's a lot better, in my opinion. In the sub, it is wild. It is but that's also like
you
a
like
question.
Spaghetti?
Oh my god. I also really vibe with Foxy's, although he's not Thriller Bark, but like it's just a great laugh. But Yeah, like just you are called Joy Boy, and so like I had to like talk about like one of the most iconic things in One Piece, that does embody joy, even if it's from a villain. A lot of the time, is the iconic laughs. But I also, that kind of segues into like did you when you were first getting into One Piece, did you immediately start with the manga, or did you start with the dub or the sub, or like can you kind of like
the
walk
4Kids
us through?
dub.
Oh god. Like yeah, can you walk us through like kind of like where it all started? I know you said you got caught up in Thriller Bark, but like let's pedal it back a little bit as well. Like what was your first One Piece experience?
Yeah, so I'm about to expose myself, so get ready for this. I'm not a manga reader. I wasn't in high school. I was an anime watcher. The only times that I would read a manga is if I first watched the anime and I wanted more story. Because a lot of the animes that I watched as well, just, they were cut short. Berserk is a good example of that as well, where, you knew that there was more story after that and the anime didn't get there. But yeah, I prefer anime over manga. I like hearing the sounds, the sound effects, the OSTs. It brings the whole picture together for me. And if One Piece was first an anime, then I would never switch to the manga. I just prefer it. But yeah, so that's my story with One Piece. I started with the anime. I actually started with Naruto first. That was the big one in my high school. It was like, oh, check out Naruto. I was like, oh, these Naruto kids are so weird. But I tried it and I was like, oh, I really like this. And so as that journey was going, it's like, what are things that are like Naruto? Bleach and One Piece came up, and that's kind of the order of events there. But yeah, even to this day, I'm not the biggest manga reader. I mainly read manga when it relates to the channel, or stories from anime that were too good that I needed more. My Hero was a good example of that as well.
Yeah, I'm also not a manga reader because I myself am visually impaired. So black and white panels, like sometimes I'll just like miss an entire text box or not be able to really tell what's going on. So I'm absolutely I love that. Like I'll expose myself, bro, too. Like I don't read manga unless like I kind of like, unless it's One Piece or Hunter x Hunter for the most part. But Hunter x Hunter's I got a long time to catch up on that,
Oh, sadness.
Bro, I know, right? Sorry, go ahead, Lucas, and then I have a super chat I wanted to get to.
No, get to the
Lucas
super
is forever disappointed in us.
No, I'm not. Have you read the My Hero manga? Or have you?
I used to cover it.
Oh,
yeah.
See, I'd seen some videos on it. Yeah, that you did.
Yeah, it's the My Hero Academia story. Not the story, but the story of it on my channel is also kind of interesting. I blew up, and I didn't even realize it when it occurred, with theories about My Hero Academia before I guess it was cool. Like the Trader of UA and stuff like that. Like some of those ended up being my most viewed videos. I like transitioned seamlessly from One Piece to One Piece and My Hero Academia through those videos. We're talking like videos with close to 1 million views. And I really love My Hero Academia. I'm a huge superhero trope story person as well. I'm big into Marvel. I wouldn't classify myself as a super fan, but I make sure I watch all the movies and rewatch them sometimes. The speaking of themes that hit me, like the themes related to superhero stories, they never get old for me. I know that they do for a lot of people, but it just I don't experience that, dude.
Same.
Like with My Hero, or with All Might telling Deku, "You're next." Like that'll make me tear up in the same way that going over classic One Piece scenes as well. I initially got into My Hero Academia because I was like, well, One Piece is going to end at some point in time. Maybe I should devote more energy into my channel, diversify or whatever. Seemed like a good idea. And I liked My Hero Academia a lot. So I was like, oh, this is perfect. I'll just start talking about it. And I did. And it went well for a while. But there was one arc, I think it was the training arc, between class A, class B.
Yes.
It was just boring. It
was.
Well, I mean, like you I don't know, man. It just part of like what entertains me as a creator. One Piece does this so well, is that every chapter I feel like I can make a substantial review for, right? So I always have something to say that I myself enjoy saying. And if I don't have that, dude, I don't want to make the review for it. And that the Class A versus Class B stuff, it's not that I hated it or anything. It just, I didn't have much to say about it. And
Yeah.
that's, that's why My Hero basically fell off my channel, which was a real shame because the villain arc after that was goated.
Oh yeah, it was. My Villain Academia.
Oh my god.
Oh, it's so good, dude. It's so good. No, are you current then with My Hero?
I am not. Now I'm about to expose myself again. I am a snowball reader. What is it called? You
let them build up first, and then.
Yeah, I do the same thing with Kingdom. Kingdom is also goated. Kingdom is another story that I read the manga for. But dude, catching up feels bad. So I catch up and I enjoy it, and then I wait for as many chapters as makes sense, and I'm inspired again to go read it. So no, I'm not current with My Hero Academia at the moment.
Yeah, you should definitely read it, my man. It's getting really good.
I know.
That's all I'm gonna say. I'm not gonna spoil it.
Yeah, I wanted to before we go too far into another topic. I'm anime only with I read it a long time ago, but they've caught up to where I was, and I kind of fell off with MHA. But I will get back to it probably before next season airs, or maybe I'll just binge it all and catch up after, because they just did announce the next season of the anime. So I mean, I'm not really hyped for it, but since I trust Lucas's opinion so much, and it's Lucas is like a brother to me, and if he says it picks up again, I'll want to be there for that. But I just fell off so hard. But yeah, we had another super chat, $4.99 from Young Usopp, an absolute goat in the community. He said, question for JBT. I've been a long-time fan. Do you have any advice for smaller One Piece content creators? Excellent question.
Yeah, do it. Continue to make content. So obviously it takes some talent to blow up, right? And if that's first off, actually, let's go back, okay? Don't expect to blow up, right? Do it because you enjoy doing it. That is my number one advice that I could give to anybody. If the highway of YouTube is paved with shattered dreams, basically, and I wouldn't invest your entire life into something that it may not be likely. It just may not, right? So do it because you love it. But then once you do it, and especially if you have a talent for it, I can't tell you whether that will be the case or not. You just got to keep doing it. That's the biggest thing I see. I've over the course of 10 years or however long it's been, I've seen a lot of really talented people come into the community, make awesome content, and then they stop, for whatever reason. I think this is also a big component of people catching up, having a lot of thoughts and then sharing those thoughts and then kind of being satisfied. You gotta find sort of your reason to be on there. What is the appeal that YouTube itself gives to you? And for me, it's kind of like artistic in a sense of I enjoy expressing myself, and how I see the story and how it affects me. And that's the reason that I'm still here. Even when I wasn't making theory videos, which I'm still making theories, I'm just not making the videos for it. I was writing my story instead, following the journey chapter by chapter, the chapter reviews for One Piece. That's part of my ritual of life. And as long as you stick with it, right, you will get something from it, I think.
That's a great answer. Yeah,
that was an amazing answer. Yeah,
for me specifically, and I'm just barely dipping my toe in at this point, especially comparatively to Lucas and and absolutely you yourself, who's been doing this for quite a while. I have just been so filled with trepidation to get into regularly pumping out content. The last arc has been something that's really helped me come out of my shell and get the most out of why I wanted to be in this community and a creator in this space and things like that. Is just, I love being able to just be able to just kind of talk to people and work the chat and stuff like that. It's the vibes, it's the people that I'm surrounded by constantly and things like that. And I never would have actually started to do it and start to think about launching my own individual channel if it weren't for just like surrounding yourself with like-minded individuals within the community. I feel like if you're in this chat, you're already you've got the leg up on that, because I love the TLA community so much, and I'm so glad to have you as a part of it, JB, as well as everybody else and like my whole crew here at TLA. But I never would have been like the kind of guy to just do it if it weren't. But I mean, it's easier said than done, but it is excellent advice. It really is.
It is, yeah, and it's true. You just have to put your foot out the door and step forward. That's literally all it takes, is get out there and do it. And if you love what you're doing, it's never going to get tiring for you. You're never going to feel burnt out and things like that. I mean, that's not true actually, because I love what I do, and I had to take a few days off.
Definitely not true.
Yeah, definitely not true. But when you love what you're doing, it doesn't feel like work. It just feels like right now, this doesn't feel like a job to me. It feels like I'm hanging out with my boys. We're talking about One Piece. We're talking to JB. It's a good time, and that's how it should be. Like, I don't know. I love content creation. I've been on this grind for like over a year and a half of putting out content almost every day, and I don't think I'm going to slow down anytime soon. Like, it's a good time. It is. It's a great time. I believe you were going to say something though, JB. My bad.
Yeah. I'm not sure what I was going to say, but I think it's just about making content in the way that appeals to you, right? Like,
yes.
It shouldn't stress you out. It should just, and that's a tough thing to do as well. And I struggle with this, and it should be known, right? Like especially when I first started, there was no pressure. Because I had zero expectations for anything. I was already doing this for the fun of it myself, and was like, hey, I'll just bring it over to YouTube. And then, I just did a stream recently, and thanks Vex for helping me out with all of that. But when I first started my channel, I did streams relatively regularly. When I had less than 5,000 subscribers, I would just go on. I figured it out. It wasn't a complex setup or anything like that, and I would read the chat and talk to people. But as my channel grew, like, the expectation that I had on myself to maintain and make sure that the people that are following me, I live up to their expectations of me, it was weighty. We talked about not making theory videos. That's a part of it as well. It's just, eventually got to be too much. But that's why it was so valuable to have the chapter reactions on my channel, which was more of a unfiltered sort of like, this is just the regular state of content that I would absolutely create, and doesn't, is easy for me to do, very easy. But I struggle with this as well. And mentally, what I do is I just, kind of tell myself that mistakes are okay. It comes with the territory. I'm going to say things in this video that I'm not going to agree with maybe hours after it is uploaded. And it's just the way that it is. The process of making it is not only entertainment for people watching, but it's also learning for me about the story that I love, because I take the responses and the interactions, and that, I'm not ignoring it. My whole perspective of One Piece has evolved as my channel has gotten older, and that's, I try to look at it that way.
Yeah. Very well said.
Excellently put. I love it.
Yes.
We do have another super chat from a community powerhouse in and of themselves. We got Mr. Bushido with €5. Talking about the chapter and predictions, I guess, a little bit to pivot. Is that Blackbeard kidnaps Saturn, uses pudding to steal his memories, blackmails Emu into giving him king status. Stussy tipped him off Saturn in Egghead. Wow, that's a lot to chew on there. But yeah, Blackbeard having pudding, and specifically, do you have any predictions moving forward? If we are wrapping up the flashback anytime soon, you think that's going to be extremely important in the coming present day chapters of Egghead?
You mean Blackbeard himself? Because absolutely, I would hope so. It's just one of those things where I try not to create situations which then would make people and myself disappointed. I try not to do that, you know. Go into it as with the least amount of expectations that's reasonable to have. But at the same time, if Oda does something that is literally designed to hype me up and it amounts to nothing, yeah, I mean, it's just, that's the natural reaction, dude. It's like Indian giving. We see Blackbeard, you know, something related to him and Egghead. I expect something. I don't know what it is, but yeah. You know, as far as my thoughts for what that could be, you know, I have a lot of thoughts, but I would say more generally, you know, I think it's time for Blackbeard to take center stage in the story or begin that process, similar to like the vibes of Impel Down leading up into Marineford, right? Like Blackbeard is suddenly more of a legit player and more expectation, and he's growing as a threat. And that's kind of how I see his role in Egghead, whatever that might be. When Blackbeard is involved in an arc pre-time skip and even post-time skip, he's a schemer, right? There's something that he wants, that he has some plan for. He does not do anything without a purpose. So that's my expectation here, is that he's here, he has a reason to be here, and there's something to be gained, which I hope that he will obtain, and that will lead to more excitement for Blackbeard role in the story, I guess. I guess for a specific example of that would be like Vegapunk, stealing a Vegapunk or having access to like technology to use an ancient weapon would make a lot of sense.
I think, yeah, I love that. Specifically, I was talking about it a while back. I think that he is, even if it's not him himself, that he has like, I don't know, a lot of people have referred to it as the infiltration squad, which would be like Lafitte and Katarina Devon, two of the only people that we didn't see at Hachinosu. It'd be interesting if they were specifically tasked with retrieving the highest level of authority chip that they could get from Egghead, which would be the Stella or satellite themselves, unless they found out that a gorosei happened to be there, because we know that a gorosei on the whole hierarchy chip. So I think that upon him seeing, and we just got this in the anime as well, it was such a great but like him seeing the Seraphim and seeing like Hawk and things like that, and figuring out by Kube literally said it like right in front of him, like, no, you know, like I think that it would be really interesting if that was why he decided to head to Egghead when he did, and he just so happens to stumble into the fact that there's a gorosei there. And I really think that that would be some crazy news that might shake the world, right? Like but I think it has to be the authority chip, because I don't see how he would have much more information of what else is going on. Like, everyone wants to make connections between Caribou or Stussy, but I think that it could just be the information that he got from Kube specifically, referring to, he saw like the Seraphim and he recognized what it was. And I think if he knew what a Lunarian is, and he had to flex his hockey for his armament hockey for the first time in the story, this is something he's taking seriously. This is something that I think he definitely wants in his bag, and I think he'll probably immediately try to. This would not only strengthen him, but it would weaken the world government, which really does serve his agenda, I think. So I really hope it's the authority chip. That's my main take. And Duran in the chat, yes, I can teach you how to make a good roux. Sorry.
I think it's definitely Blackbeard rolling up. I know a lot of people were suspecting it's Lafitte or this or that, but I think it's Blackbeard. I think
I wouldn't be mad at that. Yeah, I wouldn't either.
No, but I definitely think it's Blackbeard. I think me, you, and Cody actually cooked on this on the last episode of Chad and Rolls. Go watch it. And I really like the idea of Blackbeard attacking Saturn in some form. I think when we were talking about it on Chad and Rolls, we said that maybe he even went as far as to nix him out, which the authority chip would be a reason to do so. But yeah, I think Blackbeard has something very, very big planned for what's to come. And I am always curious as to, though, if he does get the Egghead right, and he gets to Saturn, would his Devil Fruit negate Saturn's powers?
Oof. I mean, there's a lot of people who don't believe that it, or don't fully believe that it is a Devil Fruit. So I'm not sure, but that is really crazy.
Yeah, I mean, well, like my theory for Saturn, regardless of whether it's a devil fruit or not, it's related to the powers of devil fruit. So I do think that would work. By the way, Vex, your theory about the chips or whatever, that's fire. I think that's likely, honestly, because of the setup before with Kube. Like that's what Blackbeard knows, and would make sense for him to pursue along with Vegapunk potentially. But yeah, that was great. You know, Blackbeard could absolutely, like, I could see something similar to Marineford, where Blackbeard kind of gets the last punch in, right? I expect Kuma and Luffy and crew to defeat Saturn, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to kill Saturn. Blackbeard could potentially do that. That would improve his notoriety in an actual event in the story that we would understand, not just like this happened off screen, right? I defeated the remnants of the Marco pirates. But, you know, so it works on that way. And then also there's potentially, you know, if he is related to the power of devil fruit or has a devil fruit, then Blackbeard could potentially steal it, either eat it for himself or give it to a member of his crew or whatever. So yeah, I would kind of like you. I'm expecting something between Blackbeard and Saturn. I would hope so. And the other thing is there was this random mention about Blackbeard wanting to become part of the world government, and be a reverie attending king. And I don't know if that's going anywhere or not, but you know, you have a pretty big bartering chip with Saturn over, you know, even more so than Kube.
Or Garp,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's another.
No, I agree, and that's crazy. I think that it's something along the lines of, like, Luffy, we thought his dream for the longest time, for like 1,050 something chapters, was like become the king of the pirates. And then we find out that's kind of just a stepping stone for like the real deal. I think that the world government recognition, like to be like a reverie, I think that's literally just a stepping stone, and he's not playing like. So the thing is like we see the inversions as opposed to those. There's parallels and inversions between Blackbeard and Luffy was just like so casually like, oh, I guess I didn't tell you guys, okay, let me spit, and he just says it right out. I don't think Blackbeard is telling any of his commanders what his true goal is, in an inversion to Luffy. Like because we've seen like with the lemonade and the cherry pie and like the different types of like the planning versus the not planning, and like the having it's just, there's so much there with the inversions. And I'm pretty sure Blackbeard is playing these cards so close to his chest, he's not telling anybody, not even his most trusted of commanders, what his actual dream is. That's my take.
Well,
yeah.
I don't know, man. I had this wild thought of just like, if Blackbeard, just now when we were talking about all this, and if Blackbeard had Saturn's devil fruit or whatever it is, would that not look perfect with his design, like how he looks?
You're not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
you're not wrong.
Tell me I'm wrong. But
well, yeah.
No.
The other thing as well, not to cut you off, I just want to throw on the side here is, look, you have the gravity fruit, which is paramecia, or the you know, you have the Logia or darkness, right? And then you're missing the zone. The one thing that I will say is that my headcanon is that the Yami Yami is actually a secret Logia, like Luffy's Nika. It's misnamed. So that being the case, having two different zones doesn't make sense to me. And that's the only reason why I don't think Blackbeard eats it. But that is in and of itself a theory. So
oh yeah. But no, I do think that he's plotting something bigger than just joining the world government at a reverie. I think he's going for the empty throne.
Yeah, that would be an easy way, is if he had they just literally welcomed him into Marie Joie, which it would be crazy. Before we cook on that too much, I did want to shout out to Mr. Wushido 56 once again with 2 more euros of the super chat. Said that the missing Seraphim are with Smoker heading to Cross Guild. I don't know. I need Smoker to be important very, very soon, but I don't know if I don't know how that'll all play out. But it does kind of go in with the authority chip thing. Is like if we see this is what kind of got my gears going, is if we see like Blackbeard has the authority chip and he's able to maybe like command even those seraphim, would, if that were the case, if Smoker were there, do you think Smoker and the Cross Guild would like team up to take out down these like renegade seraphim that Blackbeard had? Like, I don't know, I'm just like kind of just going like in a theory within a theory on top of another theory right here, but I think that would be so cool.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, the way that I interpret Smoker's character is that, is he okay with the things that the government and the Marines are doing right now? Not entirely. I see this arc playing out that eventually he turns on them because he has to. Because his experience, his journey, his adventure leads him to that conclusion. But is he just going to join Cross Guild? I think absolutely not. You know, like, could he encounter them and potentially have some? Sure. But like, intentionally go there to give them things or be a part of that organization? Absolutely not. If Smoker joins any pirate, he will join Straw Hat Luffy, not as a crew member, but as a Grand Fleet member. And he will do so because he knows Luffy that well and can appreciate what Luffy is actually doing along the story. You know, he has that knowledge. That's my opinion.
I've been spitting the agenda recently that I really would like it if Smoker were to like be relevant in Elbaf, like maybe like, because I know 3 Days also, you know, saying that he's with the Punk Hazard kids still, and if these children were gigantified and it was irreversible, they could still live like a normal life in Elbaf maybe. So maybe he took them there, because I need Smoker to have a moment with Saul the Defector. And to like, it's like for his full arc, for him to finally realize, okay, it's okay for me to leave. It's okay. Like, I think that like, cause he had a moment with Dragon, or like he didn't really have a moment with Dragon, but like they kind of bumped in passing a bit, right? Like, but he's had a moment with Kuzan, and like, I just think that the final like nail in the coffin for him to realize, okay, I need to leave, or I need to put in my resignation and at least be part of Sword, even if it's not like Grand Fleet official or anything like that. I think that would be either from like end of story Dragon, which I know Cody is pretty on board with that, but I don't think that'll happen in Elbaf. I want it to happen in Elbaf, and I think for that it would be Saul, to see Saul the Defector speak on the world government. I think that would be what Smoker needs to finally leave. You know what I mean?
Yes. Shout out again to Mr. Bushido. $5 or €5. Wapol was king of Drum Island, shares similarities to Blackbeard, and had 20 doctors. Blackbeard overthrows Emu, becomes king of the world. Check Discord for full theory. Yes, that's it. The Discord he's referring to is the Last Arc Discord.
Link in the description. But he was spitting about how the 20 doctors could be like the 20 kings, the founding of the world government, and like how Drum Kingdom could be a bit of like an allusion to, or a microcosm to that. Bishop Bushido is constantly spitting in our theory section in the TLA Discord, and it is it's actually like a theory that I've heard a lot of different people talk about on a few different occasions, but this is this is actually great, and you should definitely go check it out. I can't put it to justice without toggling over and just regurgitating it, but definitely go check it out. Mr. Bushido stays cooking in the theory section.
Yes,
we love you for that.
I think JB mentioned that in his video today.
Yeah, I also mentioned this on the last stream as well. But check out my Drum Island video. It's the most recent one that I've made, and I bring that up as well as the microcosm, the 20 doctors being related to the 20 kings and stuff like that. I forgot what the rest of what he said was, honestly, but no, that's fire in my opinion. Like, and Oda would as well. Dude is just a monster when it comes to, you know, keeping these little details in mind as he goes through the story and playing with numbers. So the fact that they're called the 20 doctors in Drum Kingdom, you know, it could be, right? And then if you think about them as related to the 20 kings and what their role was in Drum Island relative to who Wapol was representing, you know, it might just straight up be a spoiler, of something related to the Void Century. It could be.
I love that prospect too. Oh,
Shout out to Sea Stone Sage in the chat as well. What's good? Welcome. Glad to see you.
Stone. But yeah, oh man. Oh, you're talking about like a potential spoilers for the Void Century. I love that train of thought, if I'm being 100% honest. Like the idea that like potentially everything that we've seen is a callback to the Void Century, and we just don't know it yet.
Yeah, like Vex said, it's hard to do it justice in an actual casual conversation. I made a nearly 40-minute video that was, I'm to the best of my ability, and I cut a lot of thoughts from that as well leading up to it. But like Drum Kingdom is called Drum Kingdom, right? It reminds me of the Drums of Liberation and Joy Boy. When you analyze Dr. Hero Look's character, right, he resembles Joy Boy. We were talking about near Joy Boy's Hero Look is one. When you dissect the story of Drum Island, both the past, present, and the flashback with Hero Look himself and like before him, and what actually happened in the arc itself, dude, there's a lot of things that make red flags go off about. I don't know. It just ties into the stories that we've already seen, relating to characters who are also very similar to Luffy, and who probably resemble Joy Boy. And yeah, I'm not going to try to explain it. It's a long video. But yeah, no, it's I've been on this whole parallel train for a little over a year now. Like these theories first started coming out, I think in like 2015 or something. They were called Through the Looking Glass, which were more of like an on-panel thing of like, look, Oda is redrawing these same scenes in the post-time skip. Like, Luffy punches a Sea King as he sets out for his adventure. Luffy punches a Sea King as he sets out to, or the octopus, Kraken, at the beginning of the time skip, and so on and so forth. And this got to Dressrosa, and I was like, well, Dressrosa is an arc that's very similar to Alabasta, but inverted in certain ways. It's like, well, we had in Alabasta, the Shichibukai is trying to take over and become the king of this established country. In Dressrosa, we enter it, and Doflamingo has already accomplished this, right? But it really took me until recently to really harness this idea and turn it into persuasive theories about what might happen. Part of it is also just like the amount of stuff that we've been getting recently as well in Egghead. Like if you analyze Egghead, it's Ohara, right? It's undoubtedly Ohara. Ohara is occurring in present day, but it isn't just Ohara. It's also Sabaody. You have the same characters involved, like Sentomaru and Kizaru and so on and so forth, right? And like with Kuma's flashback, for instance, in Egghead, that is Dalton's story, and it's the story of Drum Island. With interesting detail that's creative is that in Drum Island, there was a king. Wapple's father was a just king, right? Dalton was loyal to him because he was a great man, and then Wapple became king, and it changed, right? And the same thing is true in Kuma's home island, in Sorbet, where the previous rulers, and we get to meet some of them, right, like Connie, are great people, and they lived with full hearts. And then the new king comes in, and it suddenly changed. And anyway, you can look at Dalton and Kuma, it's very similar as well, and he's just doing it so hard right now. I feel like it's just like I'm just like trapped in this mentality of like trying to figure out how every piece of the story could potentially relate to other pieces, string it together.
One bit of I don't know what to call it, like information about Drum Island that I've been stuck on lately, and I'm actually about to drop a short about this because I don't think it's long enough to be a full theory, is a big common belief in the theory community is that Luffy's real dream is to throw a party that everyone in the world can party with. And then you mentioned the Drums of Liberation and the Drum Rockies. I actually believe it's like a small little bit of headcanon that during that party, he will play the Drum Rockies like the Drums of Liberation. And that's how like everyone in the world will hear the Drums of Liberation.
He can become a giant, so
yeah, exactly. That's what with how
he can apply elasticity to like solid objects as well, so he could turn even if they're solid stone or whatever. Like there's a lot of theories about those as well. it could be drum-like if he were to will it.
Exactly.
The only thing
Oh, go ahead, Joey.
No, I'm talking too much. Go ahead. Finish.
No, you're good. No. I was gonna say with the way that Oda writes too, I could totally see it as something that he would do. It's so almost campy and enjoyable, and it makes you smile. Like, just if you pictured it in your head, Luffy smacking those mountains and they're bouncing and bum ba dum ba dum ba dum ba dum, like, gorgeous.
Yeah. The visual of it is incredible. I just, this is one of the things that I've been struggling with One Piece for a while, is how does Oda go back to places that we've already visited? Even Mary Joie, I'm like trying to wrap my head around the circumstances which lead the story there. While Mary Joie, you can still make it work and it could still fit, but like with islands like Drum Island, why do we go back there? That's really my only question. But the actual visual of it and the possibility of it, or even like, let's take this back. Okay, this doesn't happen in the story, but it happened, right? And we see that in a flashback of Joy Boy, for instance, as just like we're following his adventure. Maybe that could work.
Well, I always reason it with like why they would go back there is because they're going to circumnavigate the globe eventually when Brook meets up with Laboon again. So that maybe they want to stop by Drum Island to see Dalton and Kureha or something, and that's where Luffy's like, I'm gonna throw this Rager right now. Let's go. But no, I do see your point entirely. I definitely see that something of that effect is going to happen in this story. The drum Rockies, the drums of liberation, there's too much coincidence there for them not to be played like drums.
Yeah, the perfect thing to tie kind of what JB was talking about a little bit earlier and what you're saying right now, as far as like, how does everything connect eventually, and how would we end up going back to these places and even the circumnavigating? Okay, hear me out, guys. Everything ties back to Thriller Bark, and you guys have heard me say this a billion times, but recently, after the Leloucia never happened stuff, like, we see that there are rising flooding waters across the globe and whatnot. And I spit in one of my first streams I was ever in for TLA. I think it was before I was even a member. I was just like participating in a game show. It was a blast. But in one of the first streams I was in, I think I was talking about like, what if specifically the flooding waters were such a worry to Water 7 that Iceberg was like, okay, we need to do this now, and he has successfully turned the entire island or the place of Water 7 into a ship now, which was his goal originally, from long before the Straw Hats ever arrived there. So I'm thinking that if he was able to do that and turn an island into a ship, Thriller Bark style, that it might be how the Grand Fleet ends up arriving into the new world, all of the people that we've left behind. And maybe we don't immediately go to these places, but we see the lasting effects down, like, post time skip of some of these places through the eyes of some of the Grand Fleet members that will be hopefully showing up for the final war and things like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a fire theory. I like that a lot. And I've had similar thoughts as well. But, the reveal that technology of the past is more advanced than technology of the present. Even Iceberg, right? He read the blueprints of Pluton, I assume, so he could have some inspiration to that, the same as how Vegapunk is inspired by the Iron Giant. But it all sort of leads to the point of they're doing things now that have already probably been accomplished. So, it opens up a whole world of possibility of what we could potentially see. I have some questions about actually in the present story turning islands into, other than Water 7. Water 7 will make a lot of sense because they're actively doing it. But everywhere else, I don't know. But as what if this was actually how all the islands got to where they were in the Grand Line in the first place? Because they did all this stuff already in the Void Century, the Ancient Kingdom did. I think about Pluton, its location in Wano is kind of sus. How does that work? Is the island of Wano sitting on top of Pluton, which is a ship which holds the entire island? Even Water 7, Like I understand, I understand that Water 7 is named after the 7 docks, right? But Water 7 didn't start with 7 docks. It still had the name Water 7. You know, is there a Water 6? There's a Water 5, and were they also floating islands? You know, and that's just a cool idea as well, because I like the, you know, this has been my headcanon for years now. The Ancient Kingdom is a kingdom of pirates. And so the Kingdom of Pirates is going to need pretty incredible ships, would they not? You know, with lots of people, most likely. For these to be island-like ships, you know, with advanced technology, going around, adventuring, you know, moving, could be. So yeah, I vibe with all this.
Oh man, yeah, I love that, and it kind of reminds me of some other theory that it's pretty half-baked, and it's like kind of also piggybacking off of a few other theories that throughout like my whole time in the community that I've just kind of like really vibed with, but not fully. And like this is just me trying to tie things together. But we see it like with Mount Fuji in Wano, in post Wano, that it's like a bucket filled with like rainwater, and it's like this old subcontained sea, separate from the outside world and things like that. And there's an entire realm below it, and then another entire ocean outside of that, underneath it all, and things like that. And I remember hearing a little bit about this type of theory when like during some of the Gold Roger stuff, and then there's also like Parr had a theory that maybe like islands or even a full the full planet was like a ship. I think Dak had a theory like this as well. So it's like an amalgamation. I can't claim it as my own, but if the sea that we know it as the Grand Line is specifically like self-contained, I thought about this with the Terai current specifically, and the Gates of Justice, is if that was like a self-contained bucket ocean, kind of like what we see around Wano and Onigashima with Mount Fuji. But what if that was just a lot bigger and it was a lot more than what we were thinking? And like that's how you could see that in the cover story. I believe Alabasta connects to another island. I think it's like St. Poplar or something like that we didn't really get to see too much of. But like if they kind of dig down into like the crusty part of the bucket that contains this like separate ocean, you know what I mean? But that's like there's just a whole nother like layer below it. I was thinking about that from like with specifically the Terai current for quite a while now. But if it were something way bigger than that, that's crazy.
Yo, hold on. Let me wrap my head around this. So you're saying that the digging in Alabasta, because Gadatsu's cover story, he dug on this random island for hot springs and then ended up in Alabasta. That essentially, because the world is sort of pieced together in some magical technology way or something, that the certain parts of the world are like connected naturally, and so digging like not by traveling over the sea, but traveling in a different way, you can almost like go to a completely different location. Or you like talking like white sea and white sea sort of thing of like a literal world, because I can't visualize that quite, you know? Like,
it would be something like the white sea. Like if there's a blue sea, then maybe underneath it there's like a black sea, which is something I've actually written into my own One Piece D&D stuff about a year and a half ago. But I just didn't really know like how to like articulate the theory until like a lot more people started to have similar thoughts, and I'm just piggybacking off of them. But yeah, it's just think of like the waters of Wano that surround it, and they're like a bucket ocean that is completely self-contained and separate from the rest of the blue sea below it, contained within the walls of Mount Fuji. What if that is just a microcosm to like a much bigger picture outside of that, potentially the whole Grand Line? But I was thinking specifically just the Gates of Justice. But what if it's way bigger than that, you know?
You know, this is really interesting too, because Oda plays with dimensions a lot. Like that's a lot of devil fruit abilities, the door fruit or like the mirror world, right? So potentially harnessing that could also lead to like really strange things with how places might be physically connected, but in not really, you know? I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is great. I hope so.
The chat is eating this up too. Like the black man who left said the planet is a ship and the red line is the keel of the ship, which was the piece that broke on the Mary. That's bro. Like, yeah, like
That's insane.
there's so many connections that can get made, and so I haven't really put a video out on it yet. Is because it's like it's kind of sloppy, and I can't really credit myself for it. It's like it's kind of like an amalgam of a bunch of different theories, but that would be so crazy. And with you mentioning like how many other islands were turned into ships, maybe, and what if this was like something that was done by the ancient kingdom? That's exactly where my head went. Like, that's so crazy.
I don't know. Once you guys start talking about this, all I could think is that like Wano is built on the back of Pluton, like entirely, not the other way around. Like Pluton didn't come to rest there. Maybe they built Wano around it. Does that make sense? So Wano itself is a ship.
That's what I think. I mean, think about Thriller Bark, dude. Like Thriller Bark is a ship that they, I know it was built around the island, but like you could literally take the island with continent pullers, for instance, like oars, or devil fruit abilities like Laws or whoever. I mean, there's a ton of them that could potentially do it, and then just place it on something, right? And so Wano itself, this was a theory from, was hot at the beginning of Wano, was that it was pieced together, right? The various parts of it are very distinctly separated when we see the art of it. And they have also, just like the Grand Line, unique climates which don't seem to be cohesive. Like, I forget the name of it, but, like the Frozen Land, right? It's just like right next to the Flower Capital, which is, just beautiful spring. And so these are different islands. And if we establish this as a power that they have, then like why couldn't they have just done it over something that travels, right? If we're talking about the connection between Wano and Joy Boy and the Ancient Kingdom, that's evident because the Kozukis created the poneglyphs, which tell Joy Boy's story. If you speculate Joy Boy was a pirate, then why wouldn't his islands move? Why wouldn't his kingdom move?
Oh, dude, that's that. Fucking what?
No, I
JB
love that.
is cooked.
And it also kind of ties into what Nami said back in Logtown when they were approaching Reverse Mountain, is that it's a collection of different land masses with their own climates and things like that. And like, yeah, that just really screams Wano to me. And I remember seeing that theory is that like, and a lot of it does mirror like present day Japan's climates as well. Like I remember seeing I think it was a teching video where he went into like, obviously geography is everything, about specifically like the different like prefectures of Wano. I don't remember what they're actually called, but I'm just gonna use that word. But yeah, like it's crazy to think though that like, yeah, if we do connect that to like the self-contained ocean type of like line of thought, then Wano itself, like on top of Mount Fuji, could mirror the red line in a sense. I don't know, because it's like stitched together from other islands.
Something undoubtedly weird is going to happen. That is what I'm absolutely certain of. Like the world is fantastic, and that's been presented to us from the beginning, but there's an actual explanation for it, and we will find out.
This has been such an amazing, like, I love how we just kind of went from an interview into straight theory cooking, but
listen,
it's like,
I don't even know.
That's what we do. Like, kind of.
I don't know. He said something weird's gonna happen, and all I can picture in my head is like, well, Zunisha exists. What if Pluton's like a giant modified turtle, and Wano's on the back of a turtle? And I was like, no, that's stupid. Those.
Bro, don't talk trash about Discworld. Like, no, I'm kidding.
No.
What? Yeah, right. No. But what if the planet itself is a creature? Traveling through space creature.
Yeah, and I remember hearing about Par's theory that if the planet is like a ship, or like maybe if it is a creature, and like a creature could be a ship. Like, look at Laboon, is potentially Emu, the Klabautermon.
Ooh.
And like,
because
I remember
one's taking care of the ship, they're angry. Oh
yeah, no, that theory cracked my mind in half whenever I first like saw that. That was just, and again, like, Par does just such an amazing job of like putting these like videos together where I'm just like, it just kept blowing my mind. So Now, yeah, it seems pretty pertinent to the conversation that we're having right now. And Duran said, "What if it's an egg?" Oh man, oh man.
Ooh,
Could be.
Wild.
could be. What do you think Roger's egg was?
Yeah, I mean, I think, back in the day, we thought it was a dragon.
Yeah.
Like the Uranus is a dragon, basically, but that fell through because of Kaido, probably. It could be a weather egg, because control over weather is an important thing, and you have some clues set up of like the concept of it. And if you go to Egghead, right, which also manipulates the weather of the island, it's Egghead, and Vegapunk included a design of an egg there. I'm not sure that he necessarily knew that, but it could be some kind of foreshadowing for sure. I think that's a fire theory. Basically, the point of it is that, you can control the weather with that egg, which is also potentially fitting because the only time that we've seen the Roger Pirates maybe utilize it is in Ed War fighting against Shiki when a storm suddenly appears, and it's kind of unexplained. So that could be a thing. But yeah, I mean, it could be a lot of things.
I love that, and I don't know,
Yeah.
like that just made me think of Aqua Laguna specifically, like as well as like which is another like weather phenomenon which we can almost predict like clockwork, that affects the tides and the weather over a large span of we could presume not just the paradise, but like almost like probably like a large chunk of the whole planet itself. And what if specifically this egg were able to do that more on command and less on schedule, or on a much larger scale, whatever it entailed. Like, that is crazy.
That is what I was gonna say, because it would make sense to how Roger made it through the Grand Line so quickly if he was able to control the weather in some sense. Which I know
quickly,
Luffy has also been going quick as well.
Quickly is
and also
he took like 20 something years. So sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I mean like when he came back.
the final journey.
Yeah, that would make sense.
He breezed through it, and we knew he had the egg by that point. It's also like creates wild theories in my mind that are probably not you can't substantiate at all, but like, will the world ever go back to normal, right? If we're speculating that it's pieced together and unnatural, is there a way to restore it, right? And what if the egg sort of contains the world as it once was and can reverse that? I don't know. Break the egg and then suddenly the world becomes natural.
Oh wow, Chad is cooking, talking about what if it's a giant den. Like, oh my goodness. And yeah, like I had to shout out to the Saint Germain, one of my favorite, like all the giant snails, but like yeah, that is crazy.
No, the Void Century Punk Records is in the egg.
I think, I don't know,
that would be crazy.
Yeah, as far as like you said, the world going back to normal and stuff like that, I think that I've had a crazy theory, and it's so cool that Kube just popped into the chat, because I know he's kind of like adjacent to me on this theory, is that we are only seeing the world as a like through most of the time through Luffy goggles, and it's a romanticized version of what's actually, it's a bit exaggerated and hyperbolic in certain things. And Luffy is the kind of guy who doesn't care about politics, who doesn't care about planning, it doesn't care about this and that. And so a lot of the times when we're seeing the main arc through Luffy's eyes, we don't get a lot of those conversations. But it's whenever we have like a surrogate like pair of eyes instead of Luffy's, that we start to get like pictures of the real world and things like that. And I think that it's because this entire reality, and this is gonna get really tinfoil here, but this entire reality is effectively a dream state, and this is all happening over the course of just one night, like everything since the Void Century, or potentially. That's why they're saying like the dawn will come, and like like it kind of is like everything goes back to Thriller Bark, like at the end when the sun rises, that's when the world will wake up and say good morning and things like that, and the dream state ends and the world snaps back to normal, possibly. And like those who have the will of D or maybe conquerors or both or something like that, but there's like a select few who are lucid dreaming and are able to directly affect the dream world around them, like Luffy. And that might be like part of Emu's power set, is like they just have like the command over this full dream state because maybe they're the one that's dreaming or something like that. But I don't know. That's like a crazy crack theory. It's like you're asking, how does the world go back to normal? I'm thinking that everyone just wakes up.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one too. Think about Film Red, right?
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say.
Exactly.
Yeah. Go on, Jimmy.
You know, and I know people hate on the it's only just a dream or whatever, and like, you know, people will undoubtedly say that that's trash if that's the case. But if done in the right way, I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree.
You know,
I
like
think Oda is the exact writer to have the nuance to do it right.
Right. Yeah. No. Like what if Joy Boy is an actual god, and as a god he created this world, right? A sort of like idyllic, you know, dream paradise, and and in order to save the people, like if there's more than one god, for instance, like if Blackbeard ends up with an alternate god power that actually exists in the world or something to that effect, you know, you had to have a way of protecting the people, and so they get lost in their dreams is symbolic and thematic in a way that I'm sure Oda could nail, you know, something to that effect.
Yeah, I think that it would just be so cool if like they were to wake up and it's not quite like the world is ending or anything like that, or like the simulation. It's just that like it's a way for us to be back in the Void Century and to correct things that couldn't have been corrected. It's like kind of like if it were like a stasis kind of thing, like, you know, like, and even Roger said like we were too early. What if we take a big step back and like we analyze that not through the Roger like mouthpiece, but as like all of humanity potentially, like we were too early, and maybe this was just like a way that Joy Boy had us like killing time safely in our own little, and like and there was somebody who was trying to corrupt that, and I don't know, it's a really, really crazy thing. And like I if this is real, I think that there's no way One Piece is ending within the next 2 years or so. This is like so much to unpack. So that's like my main thing as to like, nah, I can't be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, maybe not though. But like, think about it like this: what if the world was about to be destroyed, and this is like a mechanism to protect it in a way the people needed to grow when time wasn't available, and so it occurs in this alternate dimension to where they're ready to continue real life, and not destroy the world, something to that effect. Like, yeah, that's great. I like this.
Yeah, if this all actually happens, guys, you heard it here first. Sorry, no.
Lucas, you were gonna say something?
Oh no, I was also gonna say something about Film Red. If this is true, like obviously that was a big tease towards it, and maybe even the Demon King in that is a reflection of what Emu's true nature really is.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like the parallel theories that we've been talking about. You know, Oda writes these movies, and I think that he intentionally, like, you go back to Film Z, right? There's things that he does in Film Z with Aokiji, which directly relate to the direction of the story. Before we actually got there, we actually learned in Film Z that Aokiji, about his battle with the Kainu and losing his limbs. And so, you know, I just think that that's his mentality, is that as he's writing these movies, he's treating them as foreshadowing in parts to the story. And that's how he, you know, creates meaning for them, I think, so that they're not totally filler and they don't feel that way because they encapsulate the real story.
Yeah, me and Kube have been speaking back and forth for months on VCs, making connections about how in all of the non-canon things that Oda gives the nod to, and like specifically says like, you know, like, you know, this isn't canon, but yeah, I'll approve it. This, you can put this out with the One Piece brand on it. Like, there's little nuggets of canon or shout outs or like little tiny like morsels that are actually foreshadowing or hinting or parallels or inversions to what's actually going down. Like Stampede literally spoiled manga readers for Laugh Tale, like the whole reveal, because it wasn't confirmed to be Laugh Tale until that movie dropped, and then like that was a crazy thing. And like with Strong World specifically, there's huge parallels between everything that occurred in Strong World and pretty much the entire, what we as the fans dubbed as the Four Emperors saga and things like that, leading all the way up to Wano and even now in Egghead, which is crazy. And like, yeah, I'm a full believer that a whole bunch of the non-canon things that are like within the One Piece verse, but like just tertiary and filler media and things like that, they are absolutely something that Oda likes to just hide the actual truth in.
Absolutely, 100% agree.
Like, have you heard of the Secret of Nanatsu Island, which is like a video game that was like on the Game Boy Advance that came out back when like Drum Kingdom was still airing? Like,
what wasn't that a Kev DOG video? Did he do that? Am I mistaken?
I am not positive, but I remember like looking in. Yeah, I remember looking into it, and it did seem like at the time like any creators had covered it. But in that video game, there's like a concept, like the big bad, the enemy is called the Shushibaruba, which is like, and it's referred to specifically as an ancient weapon. And this was before we got to Alabasta. So we didn't know what ancient weapons technically were, like at this point. And this was also, again, this was whenever we were, hadn't even been introduced to Blackbeard, except for just in passing as a concept. And so we didn't know anything, but the Shushibaruba is supposedly an incomplete like ancient weapon that is a 3-armed octopus, which can absorb devil fruit users and basically utilize powers and things like that of multiple devil fruits simultaneously. And I'm just like, okay, so this is crazy, because the amount of like ties that this has to specifically Blackbeard, and this was again before Blackbeard was introduced to us outside of anything but a name, and before we had the full concept of what an ancient weapon was and things like that. And this is in a completely non-canon video game that released only in Japan.
Yeah, I mean that's something that Oda does, and I think over time we've just become more aware of it. Watch the Studio Ghibli film Castle in the Sky. It's just watch it, because it came out I think in 1986, something like that. It's obviously a Ghibli film, so it was really famous in Japan and elsewhere. And I'm just convinced that story is One Piece's energy, and it includes many things that Oda actually used in the story. There's laputographs or poneglyphs, the castle in the sky itself, which is related to Gulliver's Travels, but it's also present in One Piece. You have your government agent, you have long lost kingdoms and lineages, and it's just very, very, very obvious that Oda used that as an inspiration in his story. That is just one example of many. He is, I just kind of, I think he just has a crazy memory, and he loves entertainment, and tries to find ways to utilize them. And this isn't a bad thing. And, like, I just want to make sure that that's clear. Like, that's what every story does. But every great story builds off of what has come before, and tries to take things and reinvent them. And One Piece is just an amalgamation of inspirations. I think that Oda draws from whatever he thinks is cool, all the time. And so to get back to your point about video games and stuff like that, this was a popular theory in Japan, was that the 7 Chichibukai the designs of them are based on a video game that came out in Japan in like 1992, when Oda was on the grind, basically coming up as a mangaka, working as an assistant. And I forgot what it's called, Romancing Saga, something like that, but there's, I believe most of these series when I see them.
Yeah, that's crazy. Sorry, go ahead, Lucas. I saw you just tried to message me forever ago, and I haven't checked my Discord because I've been running the chat and everything. Sorry, bro.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I had to leave like about 15 minutes ago. I don't want to end the stream though, obviously, because you guys are cooking right now. That's also why I didn't interject, because like I ain't gonna lie, this has been insane. Chat's been popping off. It's been a good stream, but I do have to go, gentlemen. Joy Boy, I thank you again for being here. You guys keep cooking, and I will see you both later.
Yeah, it's been great having you. That's our helmsman of the last arc. You can catch him on pretty much all of our streams here at TLA. We normally stream Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. Fridays is the Chadmirals podcast, and that is we absolutely vibe over there. This Saturday we've got the OPTCG stream, which is a perfect segue. And I can, if you don't have a time limit, JB, I can cook with you on some TCG stuff for a minute. But I just wanted to give Lucas his flowers. Thank you so much for literally everything that you do here at the last arc. We absolutely love you. You never steer us wrong. That's our W helmsman there. He's also a player in Cody 8, Cody ATE, over on SJ8 Cody's Twitch. And we've got the first VOD on our channel here. It's One Piece D&D, and I'm also a player in it, and we have a blast. Check him out on TikTok, and check him out here. You know, links in the description for Lucas. If there's anything else you wanted to plug, go ahead. But other than that, you have a great day.
Those amazing words. I think they summed it up, brother. Thank you so much for that. Joy Boy, I hope you have a good night, my man. It was great talking to you again. And Dindin, welcome to the stream, I guess. I'll see you guys later.
Hey.
Yo.
Hope we're doing
got
good.
Den Kushi,
Just let me know.
captain of the last arc. What's good, brother?
Yeah, we just traded.
Yeah, hey. If there's any audio issues like background noise or whatever, just let me know. But so far, you've been absolutely cooking. Obviously, JB, thank you for the shout out. The video is banging, and it's a real undercooked topic, in my opinion, considering how the gravity of what it means. Like, and it also adds to the whole idea of the world like heating up and the ice melting and stuff.
Yeah, I there was so much that I wanted to say. And it's one of the tough things that I find myself in nowadays. We talked about this earlier about like trying to appeal to everybody. I want to throw out some of the more wacky thoughts, but I also know that throwing out some of the more wacky thoughts will lose people's interest, because you know the more niche that you get, the less that people are going to vibe with it, you know. So do you make the videos more general or not? You know, I try to strike a balance with it, but I ended up cutting a lot of things from that video that I was excited for, that I thought, you know, like, man, maybe this is too much of a stretch. People will feel that way. But like talking about the Drum Islands mountains, the Drum Rockies being cut down trees, relating it to the sacred forest that Noland as a Joy Boy candidate cut down. Potential similarities there. Certainly visually the similarities are there. Even when they fire the weapon at the end of the story, the Hero Looks Panacea, the Sakura blossoms, it creates a picture of a tree on top of one of the
all of the drums.
Yeah, on the drums. It works in a lot of ways, you know, and you could talk about how the world itself is changing, right? Because if Drum Island is frozen but was once home to giant trees, then it would be evidence that the climate of Drum Island is not the same, which could also be really interesting. And you know, I go through all these rabbit holes, but it ends up being like 50% of it is that.
Like, shout out to Tachi as well, because Tachi does talk a bit about that, like the idea of the climate being off around, like indicating where the equator might be and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a super spicy arc. It's got like Kureha, this old woman who lives naturally, and she's hot in a place of cold, living in this castle before or after living in a tree, which is like a total clue as to what Emu's doing. You know, Emu's keeping herself alive artificially. They've got a freezer, they're like preserving will through that. But in Drum, she's doing it naturally, and she's like living till 143, the oldest character alive to this day in the story.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Another thought to throw in there. We're talking about my Drum Island video, by the way, if that's not clear. Like Chopper,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
In the video, I talk about Chopper representing the non-human races of the world because he's called a monster, but that's not exactly true, right? Chopper is a reindeer, a creature monster, but he ate the human fruit. So does Chopper instead represent mixed races, and that's why he doesn't have a home? And if you call Dr. Hiruluk Joy Boy and Chopper as his son, does Chopper represent sort of the mixing of races leading up to Luffy? What is Luffy, right? We're talking about genetic enhancements now with the Seraphim and with Sanji, and technology is only just now catching up to what it once was. Then you would expect similar technology to have existed in the Void Century, which means that those that came after Joy Boy could be unique and maybe, in a genetic sense. Then like all these, I have crazy thoughts all the time. So
this is the place for them. I just real quick wanted to shout out to the historian of the last arc, Kube of the Red Sea, for joining us as well. Welcome, brother.
What up? What up? And
What up?
Lucas, Joyboy, Vex, you've been spitting. It's been enjoyable, so I had to hop in. I also add on the Chopper thing. It's not directly, but there is an interesting parallel to. We see a lot of it in the way Nika is a big source of belief, just like Jesus. And if you go back on the Bible stuff, well, Chopper eating a fruit, then getting demonized for it, is similar to Adam and Eve eating from the tree of knowledge, and then they're being.
Yeah.
Which later on they bring in the Seraphim and the cherubs to protect the trees. God sends the Seraphim and the cherubs to protect the trees. So there's some interesting thing of Chopper eating a fruit that then literally he loses his home. He loses where he lives, in a way.
Yeah. There's two other standout examples I'd say that add to what Joyboy was just saying then as well, which is the TLA member Josh. He has a theory that each point that Chopper has, each monster point represents a different race. And we also see them do that weird Gundam thing where Chopper turns into holds each of them a different, they're all holding onto his legs and arms and stuff. But yeah.
But yeah, Vex, let's cook on the TCG. We promised that for a while.
We did. We hyped that up. Yeah, man. I know that your most recent stream. Thank you so much for shouting me out. You really did not have to do that. I didn't do much. I was just helping out a buddy. But yeah, your most recent stream, you cracked a box. I didn't get to actually stick around for the entire thing because I was doing a separate stream here on the TLA channel. But yeah, tell me about, I guess, what got you into the TCG. I know we've talked about it, but just for the folks, because we've had some great conversations on it, and I'd love to hear how your stream went, because I didn't get to be there for the whole thing, and again, just what got you into the TCG outside of obviously the fact that we're all big fans of One Piece. But yeah, go ahead and spit, brother.
Yeah, I'm a nerd, right? Is that not obvious?
What?
Yeah, no, I was 7 years old in the YMCA, and some kid came with a Pokemon board game where you flipped over tiles and you had to roll dice in order to catch the Pokemon. That was my first introduction to Pokemon. And then after that, it was people had cards, and I had to have cards. And that was the beginning of everything. I'm also actually similar to my dad as well. My dad was a big card collector, and having binders. He didn't actually play the games, but he liked to collect them. I definitely inherited that. Just the joy of opening packs and having cards. I did Dragon Ball cards back in the day as well. I never played it like the game was supposed to be played. Instead, the Dragon Ball cards, the OG ones, they had power levels on them, and so we would just mix them up. And I don't have I didn't have as a kid a bunch of friends that did it, so we just play 1 versus 1 where you flip over the character to see who would win, basically. It's somewhere after middle school, I actually decided hey, I'm not just gonna collect these cards, I'm actually gonna try to play the game. And it's just a lot of fun. I have a lot of I think it's the deck creation aspect of it that I enjoy the most. Along with physically being there and holding the cards. It's just satisfying. And being able to cook up something or play something in a way that it works. I don't know, there's just something naturally satisfying about that. So I've been a big TCG fan for a long time. I played competitive, quote unquote, Naruto TCG back when the Naruto anime was going with a friend. You know, it's just what we did. We went to our local card store and participated in tournaments and stuff like that. And, you know, I traveled a little bit for that. And that was such a joy in my life. Not only because you're interacting with people that are like, you know, cool, nerdy people just like you there.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and also the fact that, you know, it was oriented based on a thing that I actually liked. Like, I can't say that about Pokemon. I like the video games, all right. But like the actual anime or the story elements of it, not really. Yu-Gi-Oh, not really. Not since I was a kid. It's completely different
getting to see some of your favorite characters. Just like...
Let's not talk trash about Yu-Gi-Oh unnecessarily.
Bro. No, but like, I totally vibe with that. Is like, it was like a whole different thing. Like, I was big into Digimon back when the first TCG was a thing. Like, way back in the day, and it was like it actually spoiled me for certain, because I didn't know what certain megas were, and I was like, what is Hercules Kabuterimon? I've never seen this. What's Saber Leomon? And it was like, it was just so cool to see like these crazy characters and have them just get me the W against some random scrub that didn't know what they were doing, you know. But same thing with, I didn't even know there was a Naruto TCG until you told me, so that is crazy. But yeah,
but the coolest thing about it was going to the locals and just having people that, you know, the only reason most people ever played the Naruto TCG was because they were actual fans of the show, just like me. And so, you know, just people that you could like sit around and talk to, and you know, vibe with. And I like that a lot.
And there was
TCG,
like books that went with them as well.
With the books, you mean like the manga for Naruto?
No. There was like for Naruto TCG, there was like, I think they stopped after like 5 or 6, but there was like these quite big, quite thin, like TCG catalog kind of like with trivia and sort of data book kind of vibes, and they would like give a few TCG cards out with it.
That might have been before I started. I started probably like within the last year and a half before it ended. Something like that, and it was really sad when it ended. That felt bad for sure. But yeah, so anyway, so you know, just playing TCGs, I just like doing it, and I've been doing it as much as humanly possible. The only thing that's a barrier is just having, you know, actually going to the local, making sure that there's a game there that you want to play, and then keeping up with it. The actual like purchase of cards can sometimes be very tedious, and I think that you, Vex, can speak on that as well. You know, there's eventually it's like, what am I doing with all of these cards? You know, all this cardboard.
Oh yeah. As somebody who just recently moved and has been a collector of Magic the Gathering cards for over a decade now, I had to make the very harsh decision, like, do I carry all of this cardboard with me? Or is it just time to, you know, like, I don't know, just like, you know, cut it loose and just put it back out into the community and stuff like that. And it's, with OPTCG, just like with Magic, they're doing like a lot of releases currently, and it's really hard to keep up. And like you said, like, making sure that there's a place where you can play. That's why I'm so happy that we actually started up like our own little like play group in the TLA Discord. And yeah, big hype for this Saturday. We're gonna be doing a little bit of an OPTCG tournament stream, and JB has been so amazing to say that he was super pumped to join, and so that's gonna be pretty great. You can catch us there this weekend. Join the Discord if you want to join in some of the casual games as well, and find out about upcoming streams, you know, earlier than, you know, because we've been kind of talking about it for a minute in the Discord. But yeah, it's that's my thing, is it online, I don't have to collect the cardboard, and there's always pretty much somebody who's willing to run the ones, you know, in the Discord if you just like do the OPTCG ping. We've been having a lot of wonderful, you know, games being played the past couple of weeks, and it's just so great. So that's like been what's really gotten me into it, is just that it's a lot of fun, and it's One Piece adjacent, and so I love that. But also just like, yeah, like you said, the like-minded individuals, the fact that immediately as soon as we started asking the questions, there were just like 10 or 12 people within our community already that were like, yeah, I'll play, yeah, I'll figure it out. And we all kind of like learned together. And it was just like, it's just been such a great time getting into the OPTCG like with everybody else. And I know we kind of came in a little bit late, but
it is a good time for it still.
Yeah, it's not
too late or anything.
And like with the Naruto TCG, you were like, you were telling me it kind of just ended because Naruto ended, and like I don't think any of us are worried about One Piece ending anytime soon. I don't think so. I think the TCG, hopefully, you know, we get a lot more expansions coming from it, and they've been stepping up the quality, and I hope that we start to see a lot more development and positive growth for the TCG itself.
I mean, also, if you think about it, the one thing I will say this, regardless if you don't play the game long term, just for collecting them, because, you know, the artists who do the art, like, some cards are just amazing just to watch, to look at,
gorgeous,
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Some of
It's like,
like
it can live
some of the manga
for a long
art,
time.
yeah, it's like just straight up Oda is the artist, and they just like took it straight out of the panels. But with OPO5 specifically, I know JB and I were talking, some of this art is immaculate. It is gorgeous. Like
Crazy.
I think there's like the Purple Law that came out in OPO5, insane. And Law is my guy. It's like it's in my top 3. So.
Have we got any other favorites?
They've actively gotten better since OPO1. Like OPO1, you can kind of see like, oh look, they screen capped the anime. It's kind of trash. That is not the case anymore. It seems like everything is drawn, and the artists that they have to draw them, it's, you know, some styles are not exactly One Piece, and I do not care. It looks great.
Yeah, it's really good. And even the way that they're foiling things, like seeing a lot more of the finesse with like some of the like flourishes. If there's like a character that's like splashing water, you could see the actual attention to detail on each of the little droplets within the actual card art itself, and like the foiling process has stepped up as well. So I know that I think the starter decks and the boxes have started to recently climb a little bit in price, and I think that we've talked about this, me and you, JB, but I think that that's like it speaks to the quality of the actual cardboard and the foiling itself and things like that. Like it's still kind of on par with what I've seen other TCGs charge for a box. But the quality is finally there, which I saw a lot of complaints back when OPO1 was first coming out of the people saying that they just ripped this straight out of the manga. And I mean, like, I'm like, okay, like it's cool though still. But now now that we're where we are now, I really do appreciate like the what they've done to really put into the quality of the product.
If you think about just Magic, would we have Magic now in terms of card of Magic, the design? I remember Magic because, you know, we're old head, over 30 years old. I remember when I was like 14 years old, people playing Magic card, and some of them were just ugly to watch, you know, just it didn't look like they put efforts. Now, if you look some of the Magic cards that comes out nowadays, it's beautiful. So, you know, they've all went through the same thing, I think, as well, the first generation.
Yeah, when I got heavy into Magic, dude, like, after coming off of things like Pokemon, I just thought that the cards looked kind of garbage. The foiling was never that exciting to me. I love the art of it, don't get me wrong, you know, but like I never went to Magic cards and looked at them in quite the same way as I did with Pokemon. And you know, I can't speak to recent sets come out because it's been a while since I played, but like the One Piece cards are definitely on par with just like things that you can look at and prize. Like they are little treasures.
Yeah,
completely agree. I could speak for hours on
but
Magic,
early as well.
but
It's like really young in the whole community.
I might have a question for Vex JB specifically. So, come on, be honest. Who do you think is going to take the tournament? Which one of you two think you have what it takes to take it?
Oh man,
come on.
I don't think
I misplay, dude. No, I am not as good of a player as you think that I am. Like my strength in any card game is coming up with good deck ideas, and if my deck idea is good enough, then I might be able to. But straight up, like playing, I misplay. It could happen. I could absolutely lose. I could wash out. That, you know, that's, you know. Plus, like, do I want to go in guns blazing and just run the strongest meta deck, or do I want to play something fun? You know, and what deck you're playing, it's just a reality of card games. I know my girlfriend talks a lot about this. She doesn't like it. She doesn't like the randomness of it, like the draws of it, and one deck is just stronger than the other. You know, it's kind of garbage. But it's just a reality of card games. So if I go in and run a deck that I want to play, it's not necessarily the best deck, and usually it's the best deck that wins. Like I understand that the player makes the deck. But the cards that you're running matter.
Yeah, to speak on that a little bit, like so the best meta deck that's like placing in tournaments, it's placing in tournaments with other meta decks. So if you bring like the top tier, like what's getting like like the actual tournament W's and things like that, but the rest of the tournament meta is like these obscure and fringe and niche decks that don't play like the rest of the meta. Are you actually running the same deck? Because the meta is what kind of like helps make like the power level of the deck in and of itself, as well as obviously the deck building. But if you're building a deck for top tier, going up against other top tier decks, and that's not what you're actually going up against, you could also kind of be like throwing a stick in your own spokes. So I think that that's interesting, and it really depends on what everyone's bringing to the tournament. And I've tried to like make sure to let everybody know, like, hey, no OPO6, and then we have the new ban list that just updated, which removed some of the stuff that nerfed one of my favorite decks. But specifically, I think that it's going to be really interesting because it's not clear cut. If somebody just runs like Sakazuki or NL or like Katakuri or like Rebecca or something like that, it's not like clear cut that just because they're running like a very high ranking deck in the competitive meta, it's not like a straight guarantee that they'll take the W in the tournament, because some of us are just building decks around people that were like, I like this character, it go burr, So I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't really say who I think will win at this point.
I think it's like, out of all of them as well, it is well crafted and it will get better. Like when you think about, like JB was talking about Pokemon and stuff, like prize cards and stuff like that, they're a bitch at times and can really like mess up the chances of a game, whereas OP seems quite balanced, OPTCG. So I think it'll probably pop up. Quite
I mean, like Vex, I love the strategy of it, and this like I like, I can't actually like give this example to other people. I watch a lot of sports as well, but like sports work a lot like card games, and it's just like playing card games has made that evident to me. Like some strategies that you employ, some decks, some builds straight up counter something else, right? So if one deck is really strong in that everyone plays and it just straight up counters just in a very specific way another deck, then you'll never see that deck in a competitive scene. However, that does not mean that the deck isn't strong and couldn't win against other strong decks. And that's so the whole like idea of the meta and what people are running and that mattering is part of, I don't know, the process I enjoy figuring out.
I mean, and also since it's a card game, there's also the whole thing. I know it's not Yu-Gi-Oh, so there's no heart of the cards. Like sometimes there's a certain set of cards you need to have in your coming out, and it doesn't come out as well. There's this unique thing where you might have the best deck against that person, but just the card that comes out are not the ones you need.
Yeah,
as well.
It's funny that you mentioned that, because that literally, like, I was running a deck that kind of hard countered another deck in just a casual the other day. It wasn't too long ago. We were just kind of running, shooting the shit in the TCG VC, and I was running a deck that does typically really good against a Doflamingo build that I was going up against, and it was crazy because pretty much all of the 3 like clencher cards that I really needed in order to like pull ahead in this matchup pretty easily were in my life pile. And so I didn't actually draw them until way after it was like significant for me, and I ended up like, it's so crazy the amount of like resource management that is done. It's like, I come from Magic, and like you have to like mind your mana and understand your play speed and things like that, and like know what information you're withholding and giving to your opponents and things like that. But there is just so much more resource management when it comes to the OPTCG in each and every single little individual interaction, which just makes it feel like a completely different beast. And I really do love the thought that goes into it. And I know it's not a completely original TCG. I think it plays a little bit very similar to the Dragon Ball one. I wouldn't know for it, but like the leader aspect and the life cards and things like that, that's not like a completely original thing to OPTCG, but it's so crazy that your hand size, your life pool, your library, and like obviously your board state and things like that, all of these things are extremely important in you understanding how all of these moving pieces can kind of interact and coalesce. It's just so much more than just like my deck beats your deck. It's like it really is on the player, and it's a lot more skill based than just the random side of things, although there is the random element to every card game where you draw from a large library. it's just so cool to see this as opposed to what I've seen in competitive Magic, which is like, I would say probably the biggest TCG. Like Yu-Gi-Oh's pretty up there, and like as far as a collector's standpoint, like Pokemon's pretty big as well. I think One Piece, if it does well enough, it can absolutely peel into like the top tier, and I think it's already gotten like a lot of like public attention. You know, like it's gotten a lot better reviews, especially now since they've stepped up the art and things like that. I think if they keep doing a decent job, this could be one of the greats, you know, as far as TCGs go.
Yeah, I mean,
hopeful.
the dynamics of it, like you can play the same deck as somebody else who wins all the time and lose all the time.
Yeah.
Just from like the micro decisions made. And in OPTCG, right, like a big one is, do you counter? Do you protect your life, or do you draw a card? When do you do that? This is another thing I actually like about OPTCG more than Magic is, and in my experience in Magic, there's limited card draw typically. This has, it seems like, more card draw. Particularly with the life pile being a draw source. And so with more cards to play, it gives you more options to do things, which changes, you know. So a lot of the times, like you just have to straight up watch somebody who has figured out a deck and just do what they do with it. And you could have drastically different results if you're just like, you know, figuring it out.
Yeah, I agree. And like with the life pile and the secondary or tertiary like drawing and things like that, because there's also searchers and things like that. So it's very interesting, like the amount of things that you can draw, and there's no maximum hand size. I remember playing a game with you specifically where I had like 2 cards in my hand and you were sitting on like 10, and I was like, how is this happening? Like, but it's really interesting, and it makes me feel like I should play yellow. I really should play yellow, and it's crazy the fact that yellow has picked up so much in the meta recently, because it is a deck that like, or it's a color that just archetypically lets you really affect your life pile and do some really crazy janky things that I feel like that's just such a crazy mechanic that we would never see anything like that in Magic. And so it kind of floored me, and it was intimidating even. I'm like, I don't know if I'm smart enough for yellow, or like as knowledgeable of a player of the meta and of the whole just collective like card pool and things like that. So it's crazy. Like I feel like I should be playing yellow. It's one of the only colors I haven't played though.
Yeah, I mean, like figuring it out, right? Like the trigger effects means that even as you're building the deck, you got to think about cards in 2 different ways. What it says that it does, and then what happens when you draw it from your life pile, and how that's different, how you can manipulate that and make that happen. I really like yellow. I refuse to play anything that I will not be playing in real life at all. Like that's not going to happen until I see that as being feasible. I'm not going to play that. But that was the first starter deck I picked up was Big Mom. I think it was starter deck like 7. I could be wrong.
It's a crazy powerful.
So fun.
Yeah, like Lucas has steamrolled me with it a few times. That and his purple Luffy that he's recently put together. Yeah, purple is also a color I'm a big fan of. Like I just picked up the red purple Law and the Dawn Manipulation. It's just another thing. It's like it reminds me of mono black and Magic, where you're able to do these like really cracked abilities, but they come at the cost of some of your resources. And then there's just another way of building the deck that helps you buy back those resources quicker than you would feasibly be able to if you were just playing by the rules. You know, it's like it's a give and a take, and I love purple and I love yellow. I think those are probably 2 of my favorites that I've gotten to play with. What would you say is your most standout color in OPTCG?
No, I don't know that I have one yet. I think I'm too new to the game to really say that. I think the fundamental debate that, you know, is going through my mind right now is, do I want a deck where the options are limited so that I can, you know, I don't make as many mistakes? Because like you're talking about when I played you, I had like 10 cards in my hand. That deck drew a lot, right? It draws a lot, therefore it gives me a lot of options per turn to optimize, which makes mastering that more difficult. Whereas some other decks, you know, like you play out your hand. and you have 2 cards in hand. So like, what are you going to do on this turn? Well, you have 2 options rather than 10. So yeah, but as far as like colors, I mean, yellow is the color, the mechanic that I think resonates with me most, but I'm not actually playing that. I think, on the other hand, I like killing things, effects that kill. I play a lot of black and magic as well. So, KOing, that's black's thing, minus cost, I like that mechanic as well. And I'll splash that with anything. I'm very tempted to play the Sakazuki deck, the black blue combination. It's very similar. I've been playing the Fuji deck, right? And y'all have seen how that works, right? It's just the Sakazuki deck is that deck but better, because you can, there's consistency in that the leader effect of Akainu allows you to search for the combos that you need, find the cards that you need. Plus, like, the combos themselves are incredibly powerful. And what blue does that I like more than green, the Fuji leader is black green. Blue puts things on the bottom of the deck. There's no counter for that.
Devastating. That is so devastating right now with the way that they have set things up mechanically. It's just like one of the hardest hits, I think.
Yeah, so like if I play green's thing for the most part seems to be resting characters. Well, if I rest you, right, I still attack you, something will happen, but you could potentially do something and you can save your character. Whether it's, like cards from hand, counters, whatever it might be. With blue though, if I want to kill it, it's dead, and having that power, is a big deal when if you like understand what each individual card is doing to the board state and how, what your win condition is. Yeah, it's hard to say.
Yeah, I think that, like Cody said in the chat, green and red, and that was the first actual deck that I built, was green red law. Before I built it right before the ban list that happened, where they cut the Nami searcher and the Dadan, like 2 of the best searchers in red, because red was too powerful. And now that we've got a little bit further down the line, they've unbanned those, as well as like Marco and a few of the other cards and things like that. Do you think that there's a potential that they might ban yellow something, because yellow is getting extremely prominent in the meta, I would say, or even purple or any other color? Do you think there's a potential for any future bannings? I know as a newer player it's hard to say, but we've gotten a little bit more accustomed to, I think, the OPO5 meta now than we ever really were in the OPO4, just because we both are pretty recent, but this is still pretty fresh. Do you see that any potential colors getting the red treatment that we got last season?
Yeah, well, just to speak on the red, I came into the game after these bans were actually done, so everything is retrospective for me, but it's just kind of frustrating that they would address this so late into the season for the meta. OPO4 was out for a while. Red was winning all of these tournaments or whatever, and then they address it like a month, maybe less than that, before a new set rolls in, and then they undo the bans. That's clumsy. I hope that they do that better. But with OPO5 coming out and the following Japan is ahead, and you can kind of see it shape the meta. Now the English meta is never going to be the same as Japan, because we're learning from what they're doing. But the Sakazuki deck took them a while in Japan to figure out the build and how to play it for that deck. But once they figured it out, it won like 80% of tournaments. And I think it almost like caught people by surprise, and everyone started running it. And you just see like Sakazuki runs the whole scene. This leads up into like the English community finally playing it, and undoubtedly a lot of people are going to run the Sakazuki deck, and it's probably going to win. But at the same time, this new meta is going to create, people are going to try to think about how to run different decks and still be successful. So there could potentially be counters to Akainu developed. If there's not, then I expect...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, if there's not, then if Sakazuki just wins all the time still, and it's literally the strongest deck, and the way that it's played, and nobody can figure out how to deal with it, then I would hope that elements of it get nerfed.
I agree.
I would hope
that.
Like even as somebody who
I was just gonna say
Go
really
ahead.
quick, with the Western meta, like getting like that sneak peek of like what, you know, it took them a while to figure it out, like you were saying, and for us, we can go in immediately already knowledgeable of the full card base and of the full what's very powerful. And so it's almost by necessity, I can guarantee you, crawling out of the woodwork, there will be complete hard counter decks to the Sakazuki build. And if it doesn't get you know, completely like shouldered out of the Western meta within the next week or two, I think it's inevitable there will be some sort of banning to balance it. But they're only doing like temporary bans right now, so I don't know how lastful that will be. Because I think OPO6 for the Western meta comes out in March, so we've got a lot more time. Hopefully they don't sleep on it for a couple months like they did with what you said in OPO4. I agree. I'm gonna actually be back in like just like 2 minutes, guys. My dog is needing to go potty, but I'm loving the discussion. If you guys want to just cook for a second, I'll be right back.
That might
I'm
be
gonna
the time for
introduce-
me to say I'm here.
Yeah, I'm good. Yeah, I was going to introduce Sage actually. Yeah. Hey, Sage is here, guys. Give a big welcome to the Empress Queen of Amazonly herself, Seastone Sage.
Hey, how's it going, guys? It's been a little while. It's nice to see you. I heard you guys talking about the Void Sentry, so I nepotismed my way in, as per usual.
Sneaking in through the back door. I gotta be in this. Hold on, I have thoughts.
like, look, I've been doing it my whole life. It's fine. It's fine. But some of what you guys were saying, and I had to like cut for a sec because I'm a problem. But you were talking about the Drum Islands, Drum Island, and the Rockies and microcosms within like the plot of One Piece and how it can reflect areas of the Void Century. And I just want to talk about it.
Go off. We're here.
Yeah, go off.
We're your audience.
Oh, geez.
Blow our minds.
Yeah. So one of the things that was interesting that you brought up, connected to something I've been thinking for a few, I don't know, minutes, days, who knows, which was that when we get introduced to the idea of like the 20 doctors, and a lot of people already think that that probably relates to like the 20 kings, right? That's an obvious connection. I'm sure people made it at the time. One of the things that I notice in a lot of these microcosms, like I mentioned the Garnfall one a lot recently, just because it's so out of context almost for the rest of that part of the flashback. It's right of like the people before Imu. And I do believe there's a power structure before Imu. I just don't necessarily believe the world government itself was created purely on that day kind of thing. But the idea that the doctors are a reflection of the 20 kings and that Kureha and Hiriluk have their own place within that reflection, I find really interesting. So when we look at the character of Hiriluk, he to a lot of people has a lot of mimicry towards like essentially like a failed Joy Boy, like a Joy Boy that's like a quack doctor who's unable to change the world that he's inspired to change. A person who's come from a life of like crime and issues but has been healed both emotionally and physically by a miracle and is now like trying to spread joy. There are a lot of ties in how Hiriluk is attempting to save people via laughter and jokes, even though he's dealing with serious medicine. And it could seem out of place if there wasn't the fact that Joy Boy as a character itself must have a level of joviality about it, because there is this constant reoccurring theme that the drums of liberation, which I know you were mentioning at the time, inspire happiness and hope and dreams. And I feel like that's kind of almost like what Hiriluk's trying to be, and he probably only becomes that when he dies at the very end of that flashback section, and he inspires that into Chopper and the idea of piracy being good. And I do think that Kureha probably has her own reflection to play with, though, and that could even be Nefertari Lily, right, where we've got this person who's gone in potentially, because we hear about her not wanting to be part of it, even though she was a doctor that was famously talented at the time, and she still holds herself away from going up. And I do feel like maybe that's a reflection on the part that Lily plays. It's not truly that the character of Lily is one way or the other firmly against and firmly for. It's that they're their own autonomy, and that there were decisions being made they didn't agree with, so they didn't partake in it. And it ends up being that there is a connection that's deeper between maybe Luffy and Vivi, and also Joy Boy and Lily. But what reminds me the most of that area of the Void Century that's been hinted towards is the bit where we get a look into the Fishman Island poneglyph, and how it's a regretful sentiment that they weren't able to save the fishermen, like this promise has been broken. And I feel like that really rings true for Hiruluk, where he's trying to promise a safe upbringing to Chopper. He's trying to promise a future to Chopper, but he's not able to do it. So his last sentiment is to inspire him to continue to dream. Yeah.
I mean, there's also a promise that a fake promise he made to Chopper when he said, "You healed me," when he knew that he didn't heal him. It was the opposite.
Yeah, exactly right. There's loads of parts of it that could feed back in. So I don't think you're wrong in having that suspicion. I think you're probably onto something quite important. And I think each arc.
My thoughts on Kureha. It seems like a lot of people want to compare Kureha to different characters. Emu is a big one, obviously, because of Kureha's age and potential tied to immortality or reflecting that. But my thought on Kureha is, and if you just follow her character, she is clearly a hero. She's a good guy. So I find it unlikely that she's going to reflect Emu. I think that she is also, just like Hiruluk, a Joy Boy candidate, similar. And that those two characters combined actually reflect two aspects of Joy Boy. It's like Odin and Wano. You have the Odin, which conquers Curry and is this intimidating figure that everybody respects and is competent. And then at some point in time, he becomes a fool, somebody everybody mocks. And so these two versions of Odin, or this, I think a similar story occurs with Joy Boy, and these dual elements work between Kureha and Hiruluk. And like more specifically, I think that Kureha represents Joy Boy at the beginning of the Void Century as he's creating a new world. And then Hiruluk represents Joy Boy at the end near his defeat, which is why Hiruluk is the version which actually has this like final stand. I couldn't accomplish my dreams, I'm passing him on to the future, as it represents the end of the Void Century and his inability to really do what it is that he wanted to do. So that's my thoughts on Kureha. As far as Nefertari Lily, Lily is such a... I feel like it's something we're still trying to wrap our minds around. But I have a video from, like 5 or so months ago. I think that the character to look at when potentially analyzing Lily's parallels is obviously Vivi, but like less obviously Sabo, because I think that there's some ties between potentially Lily and the Revolutionary Army, and what they were attempting to do. I see Lily as a character similar in personality to Vivi, but was looking for a way to create a better world which was falling apart towards the end of the Void Century. And so in a sense, I think that as a member of the 20 Kings was actively the organization will represent the Revolutionary Army. At the very least, we need some Revolutionary Army parallel if we're going to do these like crazy parallel theories, like everything relates to something else, right? So then what from the Void Century is related to the Revolutionary Army is a curious question. And so I like to see this as like, look, it's a world in which the Revolutionary Army during the Void Century, the 20 Kings actually won. And when you look into like Sabo's story, it's really interesting. He's a noble, but he hates it. He hates who he is. And I think that his message at the end of the story is going to be in large part to protect the celestial dragons. What most likely happened to the Lunarians is that they were gods of the world and then afterwards are totally eradicated as a species. That is an imminent threat for these celestial dragons. And while most people will say, oh yeah, absolutely, I agree with this, Oda has gone to excruciating effort, in my opinion, to make sure that we understand that the celestial dragons are kind of gray and a product of their environment, you know, and we meet characters like Mosgard, you know, who, like, is he deserving of this fate? Go back to Doflamingo's flashback of, like, Homing was actively trying to become human, right? And he wanted to live with the people, and the centuries or decades of accumulated rage and pain that the celestial dragons have inflicted upon people ultimately comes back to haunt them. And that's one of the messages of One Piece itself, like in Arlong Park, for instance. You know, like, don't let the children bear, you know, your hatred, spare them. You know, you got to let go of it at some point in time. And so, you know, I kind of see this as like Sabo's role to play of, like, look, I'm a noble too. And I imagine the Revolutionary Army has a big role to play in the final battle itself. And you can see, like, people are already deifying Sabo in the actual story. They're turning him into a god, which is interesting, considering the parallel that we're trying to make between the 20 kings and the Revolutionary Army. Like, it's like the 20 kings went from kings to gods. Most likely the people wanted that at some point in time, believed that. So with Sabo, you know, in the Revolutionary Army, they win. What happens to the world? Luffy isn't going to try to control the world. He isn't going to try to create a government. Most likely, they're going to need the actual people to take what's already there and sort of improve it, you know? Like, Vivi is important, Kube is important, Sabo is important. And for the world to really progress, you know, you gotta move past these the accumulated, you know, anger, I guess, is a poor way of saying that, you know. So I went off for a while, but yeah, think about Sabo. I have a video about this.
Also, I do like the parallels of Sabo and Vivi, because I did think of it a while back. I think about, even with everything you said, but also the beginning of, before Luffy defeats the Shishibukai, Vivi witnesses Mr. 8 being killed off, explosion in the boat. Before, and then you have the thing of Sabo. Luffy sees Sabo being destroyed on a ship. So there are some similar parallels between Sabo and Vivi. They're not direct, but they always include throughout Luffy. And then you get the reveal of Mr. 8 after Luffy defeats Crocodile. You get the reveal of Sabo after Luffy defeats his first Yonko. First Shishibukai, first Yonko. In the perspective of Luffy, there's some interesting parallels of Vivi and Sabo between them that I really liked.
Yeah. I think it's actually interesting, right, to have these kind of thought experiments where what?
I was just before I was just gonna answer to your initial question, because I never you were spitting so much that I wanted to listen to everything. I do think that, similar to Orochi, he wanted the Daimos to kneel to him, which they refused, hence, you know, what happened to them. I do feel like the sword, you know, pledging the sword, is they were kneeling, so if they have to kneel, it means that for at least the Gorosei and Imu, to some extent, we know they're like the main rulers, so 800 years ago, there was something about those 20 kings that they needed. So I do think that they had some form of structures that it doesn't need to be a full-blown organization. It could be just a civilization, but it does feel like they had something to create a world government. They need the 20 kings. I think without the 20 kings, they would have obstacles. Like maybe the lands itself, they needed something from there. You know, so.
I think so if you were to look at like what the pressure is that creates the need for there to be an alliance of 20 kings, I suppose part of it at this stage could even just be propaganda, because like there isn't actually a need for there to be 20 visible kings, because there aren't, right? Like there aren't visible entities from these ancient kingdoms that are like lauded as exactly that bloodline. Like they are Tenryubitu in general, they are celestial dragons in general, and I think that generalization of it and them just being kind of like a class of citizens that are considered above others, and the way that they are like above the blue sea, probably points towards it being like more to do with the alliance of countries and what pressures there were surrounding the Void Century and the wars that took place. To me, it's likely that, given how technologically advanced the Ancient Kingdom is, that disease has to come into it, because like that's the one thing that would guarantee like a less advanced civilization taking out a more advanced civilization, is like disease. You know, if you come up from the blue sea with a load of viruses that are like really deadly and you're immune and they aren't, you're kind of winning that war regardless. But I do think because I know you talk about resources a lot, I do think when it comes to resources, the likelihood is that that's part of why the blue sea is fighting the white sea, and I assume that that's essentially part of the Void Century, right? Is that the white sea is fighting the blue sea?
I would also like something I haven't found in a while, but the way you said it, and because you did say that, you know, whatever happened, because we're talking about the 20 kingdoms, but it could also be that, I find it very ironic when I was saying at the time, is that the same arc that Doflamingo talks about the origin of the Foundation World Government, we see in this flashback, similar to Crocodile, they use manipulation to the people to get them on their side. Like that fateful night, the tragedy that they lived, everyone got tricked by Doflamingo. Which I find very interesting, that Doflamingo took a lot of stuff of the Foundation World Government in the way he made that arc was made. I wouldn't be shocked that the initial 20 kings, maybe most of them were believed that maybe Lily is parallel to a whole cake. Reiju is the only one who is able to see the charades of Pudding and Big Mom. What happens right after? Her memories are removed with Void Century. Like, what if just before all of that, or right after the Void Century, Lily discovered something, hence the Christian poneglyph, to try to spread the information the most possible, but, you know, something happened. Like, I do feel like there's a possibility they were tricked. Sorry, JB?
You're absolutely cooking right now. But I also need to wrap it up here pretty soon, Vex.
Okay, no.
Yeah. I was we're approaching the 3-hour mark, so I was probably gonna say we do outros outros pretty soon, because I do have to also cook. We've been cooking this whole time, but I have to actually IRL cook dinner.
Can I just fry up one omelet?
Yeah.
We've talked about the cutting down of trees, and like just a minute ago I was like, oh, like the concept of the blue sea and the white sea having a war. What if like that's the trees and that's why they've been cut down? Like the One Piece world, and like Zanisha's favorite fruit is sky apples, and we never see trees in the sky, like other than Vythor.
The giant jack, if that does that count?
That's not an apple tree. Like
no,
it's a very specific
tree, but yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, we don't see trees that specifically, like Giant Jack, even then, that's growing in Vythor, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, Treasure Tree Atom could be tall enough to extend up into the sky, you know? So maybe the Drum Island trees are just smaller Treasure Tree Atoms that were cut down, grown in the same way at some point in the past, like, who knows?
Because we're also told that, like, the Tree of Knowledge is planted 5,000 years in the past, and 5,000 years is a lot more appropriate for the level of technology the Ancient Kingdom has. And I've talked to someone about this before, but I think it was Kube was there. But, like, the fact that there are no planes in One Piece when the technology is advanced enough to have planes, and there is a technological evolutionary pressure to have flight. Because, like, this is the thing, right? Technology grows into the spaces it's needed in the most. And, like, considering things like the bridge of Tequila Wolf, there is a large pressure to develop technology that can cross the ocean. And the idea that they wouldn't develop flight for no reason at all, like they just wouldn't, is very odd. And it feels like a government suppression of technology. And when we consider that Vegapunk is essentially kept hostage, like, so he doesn't do too much. And, like... He's always under surveillance. Yeah, like, I don't know, it just seems like the sky is off limits, and part of that is security of the Red Line, and part of that maybe is to do with the trees.
We could speak
and
to
these ancestral trees, yeah. Like, and like when we see Noland have the ancestral trees of the tree plague get cut down, like that relates to disease, that relates to these trees being ancestral, like them being cut down, being left at drum, like all of these kind of concepts where the path to the sky used to be free and open, and that's part of why Luffy's like dream is freedom, right? Is because there used to be a free path to the sky. The sky was always not the limit.
Yeah, like I was saying, like it could tie into like Vegapunk has apple, like obviously like right on his head and stuff, like apple symbolism right there, and then like tying into like even maybe the smiles, that could be like a reference to like a forbidden fruit type of thing. And so I really do like that that the sky is they're trying to like gatekeep that in a sense, and that might also speak to why LBAF has been so prominently independent from the world government for however many years that it has been, and they haven't really felt like they can go and just claim LBAF, is because maybe they have a claim on part of the sky as well.
Also,
Yeah.
the thing I answered to Sage when she told me that in our history, when we were able to actually have accurate maps of the world, is when we were able to do overview of the sky, when we were able to make planes that would take pictures years before drones. That technology, just the first planes would take images, and we found certain ways of certain islands we didn't see how big they were. Like there was something on the other side. Like I think 7 years ago we found still the indigenous people, an island with indigenous people like living there, never seen civilization. So there's also a way that they could hide, like they could lie in propaganda without planes. They could get away with some stuff as well.
Yeah. If we want to, I love the discussion, and we could keep cooking. Like if you guys wanted to also join in, we can move this to the general chat in the Discord. You guys hit the link in the description, and we can keep cooking. But I don't want to keep JB for too long, and I do also have to go and make dinner.
No, absolutely. It's just it was just so relevant and like interesting considering some of the themes that have popped up recently. I just wanted to get it in there, but we should probably.
It's such a big conversation. Like it is so hard for one person to tackle it. It's like and I think once the thought is cemented that this is possible, like like the community starts going off. And but
Well,
I do have to go.
Do you want to do your outro real quick then, JB, or I was gonna save you for last, but it's up to you.
Yeah, I'm really bad at outros, so anybody who's followed me on stream sort of knows that. But you guys can check me out on my channel and watch my videos. Honestly, the stuff that we've been cooking for the last while has been really great, and in part it's because I've really improved on like the process of the visual aspects of it. I get an editor and stuff, and so absolutely check those out. Obviously, my books, The Booms, you guys can read them if you'd like to. I think that they're good, and there's a lot of people I think that it really resonates with. So give them a shot for sure. That's pretty much all I have to say. I appreciate you inviting me on here, dude. Like every time I come on TLA, we cook. That's how it happens. Lucas was awesome. Sad he had to go, but you guys did great hosting it, and pleasure to be here.
Hey, super glad to have you, brother. And like I said earlier, we have your links to your Twitter, your YouTube, and to the Booms specifically in the description. I just put some in the chat as well. We always love cooking with you. We're so glad to have you here, and like I was really bummed I didn't get to be on the last stream with you because I was moving, but I'm more settled in now. And I just wanted to say, like, I'm really looking forward to the OPTCG tournament as well with you. But this has been super special to me that that I was invited on to spit with you, because like I couldn't the last time. So from one lurking legend to another, I for real, I appreciate it. Like this has been an absolute fire stream, and I've had a blast. And thank you for giving us some of your time and whatnot. I also wanted to say real quick, your artist had provided the art that I had made this overlay that we're seeing the stream on right now. So I wanted to make sure I also put the link in the description for Azazel on Twitter. Make sure you go check them out. They have commissions open right now. And yeah, we really want to support that. It's fantastic art. And so I just wanted to make sure that we also spoke on that for at least a little bit. But thank you so much, JB. Everyone go check out the Booms for real. Check out his channel. And then Sage, tell the people where they can find you.
You can find me in your mum and dad's bed.
Sheesh.
No, I'm joking. No, because this is the thing, right? I kind of just appear when I appear, and like I'm probably gonna end up getting a reputation for just coming out of nowhere and shit. But I am Seastone Sage. I might be coming back soon. I've been thinking about it. I've got somebody giving me a hand with motivation, and it's going well. Actually, it's going well. I'm acting. Okay. I'm nervous, all right? I'm nervous because I've been at a YouTube a while. I prefer just kind of chatting and getting to know people's ideas and like crafting theories as a group. I really love group theory crafting because I feel like you create ideas that are more solid and have challenges that are overcome. Whereas whenever you come up with stuff by yourself, it's always got an element of your own bias. And I don't mean that as like, you like Zorro. I mean like, you're going to have ideas that you are more interested in, and you're going to put elements of them into the story where the story doesn't cover it. So at some point, yeah, I probably will come back. And it was really good talking to you guys. And thank you for having me for all of 10 minutes. I enjoyed every last one. And
Well,
I'm
if
sorry
you-
that took so long.
You're good.
I'm not even smoking, guys. Like that's the worst bit.
Until you do make that, if you do make that comeback, I think then a good place where we can find you and collaborate and cook theories and stuff would be the TLA Discord. We're super glad to have you in there every time. It's an absolute pleasure just spitting ideas and cooking. And like I said, I love the conversation we're having. We gotta end it here very shortly, but we can continue that in the general. So everybody check the link in the description and hop in, and we can all cook together. And that's like some of my favorite things about this community is for one, being able to be on these streams, but also just being able to just vibe in the VCs, you know. But Kube, do you have anything you wanted to tell the folks before we close it out as well?
Well, listen, I'm impromptu guest. It's just you guys are spitting so much. I said after Lucas leaves, I'm going to jump in. So I'm going to plug Lucas, who had to leave. So you can find Straw Hat Lucas on TikTok, also on the TLA, on Chadmirals, if I'm not mistaken, on Fridays. He also has Cody 8 on this weekend, every weekend. You'll see him also this Saturday at the OPTCG tournament. You know, also follow every other person on TLA, and a big shout out to Sriday, who's been holding out the fort in the chat. You've been a goat, and yeah, and I'm Q, by the way. That's my outro.
Kube is very modest and very humble, and we love him. That's our historian of the last arc. He keeps everything, you know, booked and whatnot for us. We love you, Kube, and I have been Vex, the head cook of the last arc. Vex is the lurking legend. I run One Piece D&D as well on my own channel. You can catch Scarlet Pirates every Tuesday, except this last one because I had a migraine yesterday. Sorry, but we will be returning this Tuesday. And then yeah, I'm a part of Cody 8 as well. Saturday nights I'll be on the OPTCG tournament as well. I'm also in Chadmirals on Friday nights. We got a lot of stuff, a lot of quality free content for you guys. We love seeing all of you in the chat every single time, interacting with you all in the Discord, and we absolutely love putting together these fire streams with wonderful guests like Sage and JB. So thank you guys for sticking around. It has been so much fun. We love you, chat, and make sure you like these streams, subscribe, and stay tuned for plenty more spice to come. Y'all have a wonderful day.
See you guys.
Peace.